This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second part of What If Naruto Awakened the Sage's Power into the Forest of Death. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And for more exclusive and spicy content, follow me on Patreon. Link is in the description below. And now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Well, the weapon the Hunter.nin used were senbons, a ninja tool that isn't exactly the best for killing, but since Hunter Nins are experts on the human body, they can use senbons to successfully kill a missing nin or put them in a death-like state, explained Kakashi. Zabuza will most likely come back to finish the job at the end of the week. Naruto grinned and said, "Great, a chance to get stronger and kick some missing Kiri.nin ass." A voice said, "You're in over your head, you're just gonna die." When everyone turned around, they saw a young boy wearing green overalls, a yellow undershirt, a fisherman's cap, and black hair and onyx eyes. "Who is the astute speaker?" Naruto asked. Tazuna ignored his previous comment and said, "Ah, Inari, my grandson, come meet the ninja assigned to help protect me." He was pleased to see his grandson. "Grandpa, just send them away, if they stay they're gonna die." Naruto said, "Please, like I'll flee from a midget." "Well, you ought to," Naruto said, "and give the brooding bastard next to me something to hold over my head." "No way," which caused the bastard to glare at him. "You're just going to die like the others, so stop while you're ahead." When his mother called his name, Inari screamed and bolted upstairs. "What's wrong with him?" "Geez," Naruto asked. Tazuna stated, "It's not something easy to talk about." "I understand," replied Naruto. "It's not really easy to talk about painful memories." There was a brief period of silence. "Well, even though you don't want to hear it, the kid's right," replied Kakashi. "Hey, what?" the genin shouted. "Zabuza is someone to not take lightly. He is at my level and as impressive as you three are. Zabuza would cut you three down effortlessly. And it's going to be even more difficult because of his partner." "That's correct, Sasuke, which means that this week I'll be training you three. I give Zabuza a call, named Naruto." "What makes you want to battle Zabuza? Dobi, are you becoming arrogant?" "I like a challenge, besides I don't want to fight a girl. It's not in my nature to harm a female, I'd never forgive myself." "Whatever makes you sleep at night, loser. Punching you in the kisser would make me sleep like a baby, asshole. You two need to stop fighting." Sakura screamed. "Naruto, watch your mouth. Sasuke, stop irritating people. Sakura, don't kill them." The genin said to their sensei, "Sorry, Kakashi-sensei." "All right," said Kakashi, waking up drowsily. "Let's get started." "All right, but may I play cards with Mamoru once more?" "You and your fox were actually playing cards. Why don't you just stop?" Kakashi asked. "You attempt to deny him half of your next 3 meals," Naruto shouted, gesturing to Mamoru, who remained silent. Kakashi said, "You have a problem," and went outside. Naruto muttered, "Hey, can I use the restroom? The old man says I get it from my grandma." Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter and, naturally, Inari's mother, responded, "Yes, it's upstairs." After thanking her, Naruto went upstairs to find someone crying. Naruto followed the sound and peered through a door crack to see Inari sobbing while clutching a picture. "Oh father, why father?" Even though he had never met his father, Kurama had told him about the events of that night and what his parents had done for him, and Naruto still holds a picture of his parents and sobs every night in remembrance of the sacrifice and parting words they gave him. Later, outside, Naruto went outside wearing a dejected expression. Sakura exclaimed, "There you are, Naruto-kun," until she saw the expression on his face. "Is something wrong?" "Support him." "How?" "I don't know, do a strip tease." Sakura blushed and began to neglect her inner self. Sakura was devastated to hear Naruto say, "It's nothing, Sakura. I was just remembering 2 important people who aren't around anymore. And it made me realize that life is short and I should live it as good as I can make it, and right now I'm taking a shot in the dark here. So Sakura, if I come back alive from this mission, will you go on a date with me?" "Oh my god, what are you doing? Say yes, or I'll kill you," Sakura exclaimed in shock. "S's. Sure, and Naruto-kun replied, "Yes." "Really? Maybe it's a dream," Naruto inquired. "Yes, and you will return alive." She smiled and said, "Kiss him." Instead, Sakura hugged Naruto, making him blush wildly. A single tear started to trickle down the Uchiha's cheek during this. "Are you crying, Sasuke?" Kakashi asked. "No," Kakashi teased, grinning. "Ah, what's the matter? Sad that you're losing the company president of your fan club?" "Stop it, asshole. These are tears of joy." Kakashi put his hands up defensively and said, all right, but he was still laughing. "Anyway, let's get started." An ecstatic Naruto asked, So what are we doing today, Kakashi-sensei? If the girl of your dreams were to finally ask you out on a date, wouldn't you be thrilled? A little chakra control exercise known as the Fox.Nin and the three genin leaned in expectantly. Tree walking. With a laugh, Naruto and Mamoru fell to the ground. Ah, Kaka. Sensei, Mamoru and I already know this, Naruto said, and Mamoru yipped in agreement. Describe tree walking. Sasuke inquired. That's when you apply chakra to your feet and start walking up the tree, Naruto explained, rising to his feet and ascending the tree as though he were Kami's own minion. Wow, amazed Sakura. That's how you walked on water back when you were fighting Zabuza with Kakashi-sensei the other day. Exactly Sakura-chan. Well, since you know this already, why don't you train under the boss of the fox? Kaka-sensei, what a great idea. Naruto leapt from the tree and began walking deeper into the forest with Mamoru, saying, "We'll see you at dinner." His group merely observed him sprint further into the forest. Kakashi thought, the fox boss, could he be talking about? In the middle of the forest, Kurama, hurry up! Screaming and slamming his palm to the ground, Naruto called forth a miniature form of the nine-tailed Biju King. So, what are your desires? And Mamoru, you better stop what you're doing, the fox boss, King demanded, wanting the small Fox.Nin to cease rubbing against him. He smiled and teased, "Aw come on Kurama, the kid loves you." "Shut up and just tell me what you want, I don't like my time being wasted," said Kurama. "How can I strengthen myself? Have you finally lost your mind? Stop making stupid jokes and tell me how to get stronger, remember, we're partners." Is that final section in writing? Furthermore, the fox contract is not relevant. Mamoru, the voice of reason, said, "Come on Kurama. Sama, just help him with something or else he won't shut up, you know how stubborn he is." "Okay, I suggest summoning," Kurama sighed, realizing that he was correct. "But I already know that." "Yes, but it isn't like a second nature to you," Kurama replied. "For your training regime you must get used to summoning different classes of foxes." "Got it," Naruto said, biting his thumb, making hand seals, and slamming his hand on the ground while shouting, "Kachiyose no Jutsu." A puff of smoke emerged from the ground as the smoke subsided, revealing a fox the same height as Naruto, with gray fur, a bandana on his head, and an intimidating face with sharp teeth, green eyes with yellow eyeballs, and a scar on his left eye. "Yes, so tell me what you want," the fox asked impolitely. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, not being too kind to the fox. "Who are you, you little shit? My name is Jax. I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Jinchuriki of the guy behind you." Jax noticed Kurama behind him. "Is this little bastard your Jinchuriki, Kurama-sama?" Kurama said, "I'm afraid so," which made Naruto look sweaty. "All right, so I simply continue to practice?" Naruto asked. With a nasty tone, Jax answered, "What do you think, you little bastard?" Naruto became irritated and said, "I think you overstayed your welcome." "Hold it, kid. The best way to be a good summoner, or in your case a decent one, is that you have to create bonds with the creatures you summoned," stated Kurama. Naruto was a little irritated, but he knew Kurama was correct. He and Jax exchanged a bored look. "You like ramen?" Later the trap was set, and he was covered in 6-month-old ramen as soon as he entered the room. Ha 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 ha. We witness our young hero enjoying a drink, telling stories, and laughing with foxes. "Nice one, kid," was Jax's compliment. "I'm craving ramen right now," remarked Hiroyuki, a plump brown fox with white fur. "You never stop getting hungry, Hiroyuki," remarked Izanami, a smirking female sky blue fox with white fur. "I just wonder who would win in an eating contest," Naruto remarked, recalling his former, big-boned friend Shoji. "I know someone you can really get along with, Hiro." "Hiro for sure, he almost ate all the fruit in our land while he was in one of his little sleep-eating frenzies," said Jax with a toothy grin. With a pout, Hiroyuki remarked, "Sleeping makes me hungry." A female snow-white fox with beige fur named Hiroko, who was a few inches smaller than the others, remarked, "Everything makes you hungry, Hiro.kun." Everyone laughed, with the exception of a silver fox who was merely grinning. "You don't actually engage in dialogue, do you, Akio?" Naruto asked. Akio, the silver fox, who was a few inches taller than Naruto and the tallest member of the group after Kurama, remarked, "I usually don't speak until I'm spoken to." "So, do you have a girlfriend, Naruto.kun?" Hiroko inquired, causing Naruto to flush. "Well, no, actually. What about Sakura, then?" Mamoru asked. "She isn't my partner," he cried out. Oh my goodness? Will you go on a date with me, Sakura? Mamoru asked in his voice after changing into Naruto. Then she changed into Sakura and said, "Sure Naruto-kun, you're so hot and sexy," in her own voice. She never said that last part, so shut up. Reverting to his original self, Mamoru stated, "No, but she wanted to." "And besides kid, you're on your way to getting a harem," said Kurama. "A harem? Nice one, damn kid," Jax said. Naruto refused, saying, "Please, I don't have a harem." "Really? What about Ino, the blonde vixen?" Mamoru recalled the day of the team assignment and remarked, "Yeah, she was flirting up a storm with you that all the girls joined in to fight for the empty seat next to you." Naruto clarified, "She still likes Sasuke too though." Kurama smiled, understanding that Naruto couldn't dispute that. "True, but that sexy cougar Enko only has her eyes set on you." Naruto blushed as he recalled Enko's final words to him before he departed, causing a severe nosebleed. The foxes all burst out laughing at Naruto's small gesture. Jax remarked, "Man, this kid is a riot at night." When Naruto and Mamoru returned inside, they discovered that everyone was having dinner. After finishing his meal and reading his filthy book, Kakashi said, "Ah Naruto, good to see you. How was your training?" He responded, "It was good," while seated with Mamoru. "Why don't you stop pretending to be a hero and just run away before you die?" replied Inari. "Have you heard anything else?" Ignoring Inari, Naruto said. "Stop disregarding what's best." "I'm not ignoring what's best, I'm ignoring you. Besides, you're the one who's ignoring what's best. What the hell do you think you're going to do when you face Gato?" "Easy," Naruto said, turning to face Inari. "I'll use these two arms of mine and teach that midget bastard a lesson he'll never forget," he said, grabbing his own left arm with his right hand. "Father," Inari said, looking at him with a startled expression before sobbing and running upstairs. Inari. In an attempt to console her son, Tsunami ran after him. "Did I say something?" Fearing that he had done something incorrectly, Naruto asked. "No, well actually yes, it's just that you sounded exactly like Kaiza," replied Tazuna. "Kaiza?" Naruto asked. Tazuna began by describing how Inari met Kaiza, the most courageous man to have ever visited the Land of Waves. Inari had always looked up to Kaiza and considered him to be his father, despite the fact that they were not related by blood. However, that all changed when Gato took over Wave. Kaiza stood up to Gato, but with Gato's little insurance, Kaiza never stood a chance. Gato made an example out of Kaiza by crucifying him in front of everyone in the town and executing him, destroying everyone's courage, especially Inari's. When Naruto had had enough, he got up and went to the exit. "Where are you going, Naruto-kun?" Sakura inquired with concern. "I can relate with that kid. I lost someone too who was like a father to me, but his death made me stronger, because of the smile he gave me before dying. I realized later that that smile meant he was passing on everything to me, his strength, faith and courage. Right now that kid needs to believe in the courage his father gave, and in order to do so," Naruto smiled at them and said, "He needs a hero," and then left. At the boy's words, which Tazuna knew were the real words of a hero, tears were streaming from his eyes, but he wasn't alone. Inari was able to hear everything and was sobbing as he recalled his father's final smile before his execution. "Father," he muttered. The following morning as the wind blew, a young woman was gathering herbs and placing them in a basket when she looked to her side and saw a young man unconscious on the floor, but what she really saw was his headband. She approached the boy's unconscious body, leaned over him, and reached out for his neck, but instead grabbed his shoulder. The girl jumped when the young man said, "I knew you weren't going to kill me." "I apologize, Naruto. The name's Naruto. My name is Haku," she said. He sat up and said, "Nice to meet you, Haku. Tell me, what are you doing out here for?" "I was picking medicinal herbs for a friend of mine." "Oh, so those are for Zabuza." Haku's eyes grew wide, and she was ready to remove her senbon when Naruto held up his hand. "Calm down, you're not trying to kill my contract now, which means we're not enemies, just acquaintances," Naruto grinned. Haku relaxed and sighed with relief, relieved that they had avoided a confrontation. "Do you mind if I assist you?" Naruto asked. Since they are currently not enemies, Haku permitted him to. "If it's okay with you, may I ask how you and Zabuza met?" "He saved me," is what Haku thought as she paused her herb, picking to gather her thoughts. "Ah, I see, since he saved your life he became a big part of it, so you promised to lay your life on the line for him. How did you? It's pretty obvious when you put the pieces together." "He's precious to me," she said, and Haku nodded in understanding. "Do you have anyone precious to you?" He stopped, recalling a significant person in his life. "A lot, there's my team, my best friend Mamoru, Mine. Chan Mako, Karama, Anko. Chan, Ino. Chan, Old Man Third N. Is there a problem? Haku inquired out of worry. With a tear streaming down his cheek, Naruto clarified, no, it's just that I had someone who was very precious to me, he gave his life to save mine. Haku used her gentle hands to wipe away his tear and said, I'm sorry. It's all right, he replied while grasping her hand, but in his death he gave me his strength, so now I feel that every time I fight, he's right there battling beside me. Haku grinned at what he said, but she knew what it was that made her feel warm. She grabbed her basket and said, well, I better get going. Oh, and one more thing. I'm a boy, she added. Yeah, and I'm the Tsuchikage. I know you're really a girl, but don't worry, my lips are sealed, said Naruto while grinning. Thank you, he said to Haku, who approached him and planted a kiss on his lips. As they parted ways, she grinned and said, see you around Naruto-kun, before heading off to tend to Zabuza's injuries. A voice in a tree said, that's now 4 in your harem. Mamoru, what is it? Naruto, irritated that his friend was listening in, asked. They want you back at Tazuna's so you don't starve yourself. As soon as his stomach began to growl, Naruto said, well, I could go for some food, and he followed his friend back to Tazuna's. As soon as Naruto entered the room, Sakura punched him in the head. Oh no. That's to frighten me, Sakura shouted at him. I assumed you had stopped hitting me? Naruto rubbed the lump on his head and exclaimed. She smiled smugly and said, please, as if someone's got to put you in your place when you deserve it. Naruto simply glanced up at her, and for a brief moment he noticed a stunning woman with red hair behind her, which caused Naruto to burst out laughing. What's funny? Sakura glared menacingly as she asked. Sakura blushed when Naruto smiled and said, nothing, Sakura. It's just that you remind me so much of my mom, and she was the most beautiful and coolest woman there was in the Hidden Leaf. I could vouch for that, replied Kakashi. It was never a boring day when Lady Kushina was around, whether she was full of happiness or full of rage. Just like you, Sakura. Chan. So, Dobi, where have you been? Sasuke inquired. I was training until I fell unconscious from working too hard, then I met this hot girl who was really nice to me and gave me my second kiss. Man, was she a looker? Naruto said with an arrogant grin. What? Sakura yelled, prepared to knock him out once more, but then she had another question. Who was your first and where was it? He told her the truth. Anko at the hot springs, knowing that he would still be punched. Bam, then he was gone like a light. Well, looks like he down, replied Kakashi. Someone's got to put him to bed. Sakura, furious, said, don't look at me, I got to go punch something, and went outside. Kakashi and Sasuke were left alone when Mamoru, unwilling to take the chance, leapt out the window. The two exchanged glances. Not it, Kakashi remarked. Not, damn. Sasuke grabbed Naruto and began dragging his ass to his room after swearing, which meant he had to put him to bed. Be careful with his, bam, head. Kakashi's perspiration fell. After kicking Naruto's door open, Sasuke dragged him inside and threw him onto the bed. Sweet dreams, Dobi, he said, pulling out a photo he had taken of Hinata. I know I will, he grinned. You filthy bastard, Sasuke. The following morning, Naruto got out of bed and put on his jacket, saying, ow, my head, how'd I get here? Go away from her. Out his window, Naruto heard a voice asking, Inari. He glanced over and saw 2 samurai men holding Tsunami captive while Inari stood up to them, saying, oh shit. Outside. And what will a runt like you do? That's why you smiled, father, Inari thought, recalling the smile Kaiza gave him prior to his execution. You believed in me, you gave me your strength, faith, and courage. He looked at the two with a determined look, saying, I will not disappoint you, father, not anymore. Despite his extreme fear, Inari recalled what Naruto had said yesterday about that man he admired and the smile he gave him, which helped shape Naruto into the man he is today. Inari, run. Before one of the thugs knocked him out, his mother cried out. The 2 thugs with swords were about to draw them as Inari approached, but an unexplained force tugged them out of their sheaths and into the hands of a young man who was standing on the roof. Naruto uttered the words, you guys just made the biggest mistake of your lives, with a menacing air of murderous intent. Naruto, Inari said, gazing at Naruto in wonder. Naruto abruptly disappeared after smashing the larger thug's head into the wooden dock of the house. Holy shit. The other thug yelled before a ball of fire tackled him in the back. When the fire went out, Mamoru was visible. Where have you been? Naruto shouted. Marking my territory. I didn't need to know that. Naruto. I'm proud of you, Inari. You acted like a true hero, just like your father, Naruto said, turning to face the child and ruffling his hair. Inari smiled while crying and gave Naruto a thank you hug. Naruto said, no problem kid, but then he recalled, where are the others? With a, they're at the bridge, response, Inari released Naruto. Inari, stay here with your mother, Naruto said, biting his thumb and making a few hand gestures before slamming his palm into the ground and uttering, Kachiyose no Jutsu. 2 puffs of smoke then materialized, and when they faded, Hiroyuki and Hiroko were revealed. Hiroko greeted him with, hi Naruto-kun. What do you require? Hiroyuki inquired. I need you to guard these 2. Hi. I'll be back Inari, just let these 2 do all the work in case more of these stooges come around. Inari nodded and thought, I have to help, as he watched Naruto and Mamoru dash to the bridge. On the bridge panting, Kakashi turned back to face Zabuza. Zabuza said to Kakashi, who was now dressed in black pants and a black sleeveless top, you look a little out of it. I've been out for days, don't expect much, that white-haired kid had more strength than you. Yeah I know. Did someone make a hero call? Mamoru's appearance with the same just you coincided with Naruto's appearance with his new fire Shushin. Remind me to ask him to teach me that jutsu later, replied Kakashi. In Zabuza's words, if you live that is, in order to check on Sakura, Naruto said, are you okay, old man Tazuna? Sakura pointed to the dome of ice mirrors and said, yeah, we're fine, but Sasuke's in there. Mamoru nodded and watched his best friend dash directly into the dome, saying, Sasuke, I'm here to help. Hey, you got your Sharingan. I'm on it. Mamoru, stay with Sakura just in case Zabuza slips by Kakashi-sensei. Sasuke said, yeah, I know, and you could have helped if you stayed outside instead of becoming a pincushion like me, while dodging as many senbons as he could from the fictitious hunter.nin inside each ice mirror. Standing in the center of the dome, Naruto shouted, Shinra Tensei, and extended his hands, saying, if I did that I would crush you. The hunter.nin was blown away from the attack, shattering all the ice mirrors. Sasuke's eyes widened at what he witnessed. Did you forget about that? Sasuke merely gave a stupid nod, alongside Zabuza and Kakashi. That kid destroyed Haku's ice mirrors, impossible, Zabuza thought as he watched in disbelief. Suddenly, he was taken into custody by dog.nin that Kakashi had called. The words, it ends now, Zabuza, were spoken by Kakashi as his hand burst with lightning. Alongside Haku as she stood up, she saw that Naruto had reached out to her, destroying her mask beyond repair. Haku grabbed her senbon and stabbed him, who blocked it with his bleeding hand and used the other to hold onto her free hand. Haku, I don't want to fight, I don't want to see you die, please, let me help you. Even though they were now enemies, Haku continued to treat her like a friend, so he broke down in tears. You want to help me, save Zabuza. Sama. Suddenly they both heard lightning and turned to see Kakashi charging at a detained Zabuza with a lightning jutsu. Zabuza. Sama. Naruto was aware of Zabuza's significance to Haku. It resembled him and Iruka exactly. Naruto spoke, Bansho Tenin, as he released Haku's hand and held it out to Zabuza, his eyes blazing with determination. I don't care that you saved my life, either you let go of her or I'll turn you into chopped beef, Zabuza said, feeling a strange force take control of his body. The next thing he knew, he was being pulled away from Kakashi and directly in front of Naruto and Haku. Yes sir, Naruto replied, releasing Haku, who sensed a father-daughter bond between them. Haku rushed up to embrace Zabuza, sobbing in his shoulder as he did so. What a touching moment, almost brings a tear to my eye that I have to end it. A clapping sound was heard in the distance during this sentimental moment, and everyone turned to see a midget in a suit with a small army of armed thugs behind him. I'm going to assume that the half-pint is Gato, Naruto asked. Yeah, that's him, Zabuza replied. You failed Zabuza, so now you're going to die along with the others. Excited about the thrill of killing, all the men cheer. I refuse to allow you to harm him. With amazing speed, Haku screamed and charged at Gato. Get rid of them, you idiots, shouted Gato as he fled Haku and entered the throng of thugs. Haku! Zabuza and Naruto shouted as they chased after her. Haku was battling thugs left and right, but she was unable to keep up due to the sheer number of them and the serious physical damage caused by Naruto's earlier attack. Suddenly, Haku was shot in the back with an arrow, dropping her defenses and leaving her vulnerable. One of the thugs didn't waste this opportunity. Everything happened so quickly. Haku was stabbed in the heart by a blade as Naruto and Zabuza charged into the crowd. When Naruto and Zabuza saw Haku's life being taken, they halted and sobbed, but their tears were quickly replaced by rage and a desire to kill, which scared the living daylights out of the thugs. As he charged in swinging his executioner's blade, Zabuza's body was leaking so much killer intent that it somehow combined with his chakra to form the image of a demon behind him. Regarding Naruto, he felt a yellow flash, as his entire body transformed into golden flames with markings. 9. Tails chakra mode, he whispered, and he began to flash everywhere, destroying thugs one by one. After killing every thug, Naruto and Zabuza stood in front of Gato, who was pissing his pants. Gato begged, "I'm sorry, please don't kill me, I'll give you anything," but Naruto grabbed his windpipe and stared into his eyes, which were filled with rage and hatred. Looking at Haku's body on the ground, Naruto said ominously, "I would love nothing better to do than to kill you." He closed his eyes and changed back into his original form, saying, "But as much as I want to kill you, I'd only be part of the cycle of hate and I am not going to be a part of it, plus." Naruto threw Gato to the ground, saying, "You're the wave villagers' problem. Like those villagers would be brave enough to take me on," Gato said as he began to run. When he stopped, he saw that every villager was armed and on the bridge. When Naruto saw that Inari was in charge of the villagers, he said, "Of course they will. They just needed a hero." The wave villagers were holding something special for Gato after he was attacked and restrained. After walking to Haku's body, Naruto couldn't contain his emotions any longer after seeing her face, so he dropped to his knees, grabbed her, and began to embrace her lifeless body. In the brief time they had known one another, Haku had grown to be a significant part of Naruto's life. It seemed as though she understood him when he said, "I don't want you to die, Haku. I cannot let you die." Suddenly, he felt something coming to him, so he got up and began to sign, "I will not let you die." Naruto was the only one who could see the enormous, strange head that suddenly emerged from the earth. It opened its mouth and released a life force that entered Haku's body. After the deed was completed, the figure returned to the earth, and Naruto collapsed to his knees in front of Haku and began to breathe heavily. Everyone was worried about the boy, but they were all astounded by what had happened. When Naruto felt a hand suddenly touch his own while he was on his knees, panting heavily, he turned to see that it was Haku, who was grinning weakly and crying. "Naruto-kun," she uttered feebly. "Haku, it actually worked. I brought you back to life," Naruto sobbed, grinning broadly as he took her in his arms. Everyone was taken aback. Naruto Uzumaki possessed the ability to resurrect the dead. Later everyone in the town center cheered as Zabuza crucified and executed Gato, believing that the bastard was finally receiving the slow and agonizing death he deserved. Following the execution, everyone began working with Tazuna and a few hundred Naruto Kage Bushins to build the bridge. "We can now observe what is happening at Tazuna's residence." "What were you saying?" Zabuza inquired. "I said why don't you and Haku join the Hidden Leaf? I got it in good with Old Man Third and I definitely think he'll agree with you two joining," replied Naruto. "Kid, I'm an S-class missing. Nin, it sounds a little risky to me." "Better than being hunted down by Hunter. Nin, good point." "Are you certain it will be alright, Naruto?" Kakashi asked. With his characteristic foxy smile, Naruto remarked, "Of course, I trust the old man and besides no one is going to mess around with Naruto Uzumaki on the job." Knowing what Naruto truly wanted from the arrangement, Sasuke remarked, "You just want Haku to become a leaf nin so you could get a better chance at her dobi." "That type of conversation can be fatal," screamed a furious Naruto. "I agree," Zabuza said in a threatening manner. Sakura and Haku observed the men fighting while the little guy conversation was taking place, but they were ignored. "Are they even aware that we are present in the room?" Haku asked. Sakura said to Haku, who wholeheartedly agreed, "I doubt it. We women are always invisible to men unless they want to take a good look at what our mamas gave us." After 2 days, Team Kakashi, Zabuza, and Haku were prepared to return to Konoha after the bridge was completed. "Do you really need to go?" On the edge of tears, Inari asked. Declaring, "Don't worry, I'll come visit, always remember to never give up Inari," Naruto approached him and gave him a head pat. Before Naruto got up and returned to his team, Inari gave him a final hug. Kakashi gave the order, "Well, let's head out," as the group began walking back to Konoha. Someone gave Inari a head pat as he watched the group leave. "I like you, friend Inari." "Thanks, father," was Inari's response to Kaiza, whom Naruto had resurrected for him. "Thanks Naruto.ni.san. "So, what will you call the bridge, father?" Tsunami questioned her dad. He grinned and said, "I got just the name, the Great Naruto Bridge." When the name was announced, everyone applauded. Team Kakashi, Zabuza, and Haku were unaware that they were being observed as they made their way to Konoha. My looks like the demon of the hidden mist is joining the ranks of Konoha, said a soft voice. A darker voice said, we better inform leader. Sama, as a figure that resembled a plant disappeared into a tree. When our travelers arrived at the Konoha gates, they were met with Anbu. Naruto questioned, are you guys here to finally get payback? The lion. Masked Anbu said, no, once again, we're here for business not pleasure. A cat. Masked Anbu said, we received your message and are here to safely escort your group to the tower. As the Anbu escorted them to the Hokage tower, Kakashi said, good, then let's move out. When they arrived at the tower, the Anbu separated from the group to ascend the tower. When they arrived at the office, Naruto greeted everyone with a smile and exclaimed, Gigi, I'm back. The Hokage grinned and said, ah Naruto, good to see you're still in one piece. And I see the message you sent was true. In the hopes that he would agree, Naruto asked, yeah, so can they join? Well, Haku can after going through a mind scan, but for Zabuza I'm still a little unsure, my apologies. Zabuza remarked, I don't blame you. I trust him, Naruto said, isn't that enough? Well, considering you are a good judge of character, I can let him join after a mind scan, interrogation, and someone will have to vouch for him. Kakashi offered to vouch for him, in order to avoid being coerced by Naruto. Naruto exclaimed, sweet, thanks old man, with joy. Zabuza asked Kakashi, can he actually get away with calling him that? Kakashi just nodded. Naruto inquired, so how long will it take for all this? As the Hokage responded, about possibly 2 hours. He said as he leapt out the window, okay, I'll see you guys then. Just like his grandfather, Hiruzen thought, oops. Kakashi questioned, is something wrong, Lord Hokage? No, it's just that I forgot to tell Naruto that 2 special people came to see him, the Hokage said, grinning. Where he's going, there's no doubt that he'll meet up with one of them. Alongside Naruto believed he deserved a little something after everything he had gone through, and that little something was a trip to the hot springs to conduct some research. When Naruto arrived at one of his typical locations, an elderly man was already there. Naruto uttered, hey old man, that's my spot. The elderly man waved him away, saying, I'm busy here kid, find another spot. Naruto began to grow irritated and yelled, listen asshole, no one, and I mean no one, is getting in between me and my research. Well, I'm doing my own little piece of research, so either get in line or get lost, little pervert. Hey, I ain't no pervert. Naruto proudly declared, puffing out his chest, I'm a super pervert. Well, so am I Gaki, and no one's more super than I am. Oh please, I get my super pervertism from my genes. Your genes? He pulled out his autograph book and proudly displayed it, saying, Icha. Hell yeah, my grandfather is the biggest super pervert there is, he made my favorite book series. Jiraiya paused his task and turned to face the child who was proudly displaying his book. Naruto? He asked. Naruto recognized the elderly man as his grandfather Jiraiya. The two remained silent until Naruto hesitantly inquired, can I do research with you? Sure Naruto, you can do research with me anytime, Jiraiya said, delighted to have met his grandson and thrilled that he shared his extreme perversion. Naruto inquired, where all the girls? Oh shit. The two turned to see irate women with towels wrapped around them after sensing a murderous intent behind them. Nervously, Naruto uttered, hi ladies, anyone want a massage? Kurama screamed, screw trying to be a ladies' man and run. Naruto and Jiraiya fled from the women as quickly as they could, but once a woman becomes enraged, there is no stopping her. Fortunately, Naruto recalled the location of one of his hidden tunnels, so he took Jiraiya with him and managed to get away from the irate women without suffering any injuries. They followed the hole into an alleyway directly behind Ichiraku Ramen. Man Naruto, that was an incredible escape, Jiraiya grinned in admiration. He grinned and said, thanks, Grandpa. Jiraiya smiled and said, say Naruto, how about I treat you to some ramen? Naruto exclaimed, hell yes, I have the coolest grandfather ever. After 20 bowls. Done, said Naruto, grinning. Thank you, Kami, Jiraiya thought. Perplexed, Tuchi remarked, really Naruto? You usually have more? Don't support him. Nah, I don't want to make my grandpa broke, that's grandma's job. When Ayame slammed the butcher knife on the counter, the men all stopped laughing. I'm sorry, what was so funny? Nothing Ayame. Nay, Chan. Jiraiya and Naruto departed after paying the bill. Naruto said, you into gambling? I don't usually, do you? Oh, all the time, although my luck isn't always good. Ha, you're definitely Tsunade's grandson, all right. How good is she at gambling? She horrible, she loses all the time. Wow, so you ever challenged her to strip poker? The words remind me to kick my own ass later for not thinking that caused Jiraiya to stop. A voice on a building said, "Ah, Jiraiya. Sama, good to see you're in the village." Jiraiya recognized that voice and said, "Well, if it isn't little Kakashi, you're not so little anymore." Yeah, I know, Jiraiya. Sama called to him, a pretty dark-haired woman holding a pig. Naruto questioned, "Who's that and what is she holding?" "That's Shizune, your grandmother's apprentice, and the little oinker in her arms is Tun Tun, your grandma's pet pig," replied Jiraiya. Naruto remarked, "Oh, so that's Shizune," recalling that the elderly man had once mentioned her name and asked, "Why would someone want a pig for a pet?" She remarked, "Tsunade has been waiting for you." He asked anxiously, "What? Is it really that time already?" She said, "You're 10 minutes late." Knowing that she should never keep Tsunade waiting, Jiraiya ran like the wind and said, "Oh crap, I gotta go, Naruto. I'll meet up with you later." "Oh, so you're Naruto?" Yeah, that's me," replied Naruto. "So you're my grandma's apprentice?" "That's right." Shizune grinned in response. "Well, it's good to meet you, Shizune. Chan," Naruto said with his well-known signature smile. Kakashi landed directly next to them and said, "It's good to see you again, Shizune." Shizune cautioned, "Ahi, Kakashi. Don't scare me like that," and Tun Tun nodded. "Sorry, it's just that I haven't seen you in a long time and I didn't want to miss out on catching up, say for dinner." Shizune said, "I'm sorry, Kakashi, but I'm pretty busy, maybe next time." Shizune then turned to leave. Kakashi simply sighed and swore, "Damn." He heard Naruto laughing beside him. "What?" he asked. "Don't what me Kaka. Sensei, I never knew you were such a sly dog. Looks like you really do have a dream for the future," laughed he. When his pupil teased, "Don't you have someone else to annoy?" Kakashi began to perspire. Naruto then began leaping onto roofs, saying, "Oh damn it, you're right. See ya, Kakashi-sensei, remember to vouch for Zabuza." Damn kid, at a lake close by a certain antisocial hottie was observing Hinata Hyuga as she sat on a dock, taking in the tranquility and losing herself in her thoughts. With a sincere smile, Sasuke thought, "She's just so gorgeous and elegant." "Hey Sasuke," appeared out of nowhere to greet Naruto. "Shut it Dobi," was whispered by Sasuke as he covered Naruto's mouth. Hinata said, "Pardon me. Is someone there?" Sasuke whispered to Naruto, "Get me out of here right now and I won't kill you." Naruto obeyed and shushed them away. Was that Naruto.kun and Sasuke.kun? At the 7th training ground? Sasuke released Naruto and struck him in the face as soon as they arrived at their training ground. "What the hell? I said I wouldn't kill you, I didn't say anything about not hitting you." Sasuke replied. "Listen, the reason why I was there was." Naruto grinned smugly and said, "Cut the crap Uchiha, I know you got a thing for Hinata, I saw you always checking her out on team assignment day." "If you tell anyone," Naruto assured Sasuke. Whoa, calm down Teme. I won't, I promise, Leaf. Nin's honor." "Alright. Thank you Naruto. So why not just ask her out?" they said, grinning at one another. "No problem Teme, it's what friends are for." "Two problems, one you, I know, she has a crush on me, I'll let her down easy." "The second's worse than me, come on what's worse than me?" "A Hyuga clan head that would rather feed me to the 9 tails than let me even look at his daughter." "Oh right, old man Hiyashi, I guess that is worse," replied Naruto. "But don't worry, I'll help you get together with the Hyuga princess." Sasuke said, "Forget it, just act as if this never existed," before leaving. "Oh come on Sasuke. I said let it go. Geez, are all Uchihas such cowards?" I said, although I didn't want to have to do this. Sasuke froze in place and asked, "What did you say?" "Bingo. I said that when it comes to love that you Uchihas are such wimps." With lightning fast speed, Sasuke charged at Naruto, snatched him by the shirt, and screamed, "You Uchihas are not cowards you slime." Sasuke was about to strike Naruto in the face when he said, "Then why are you scared to ask Hinata out? Beating me up will not change my opinion." After hurling Naruto to the ground and shouting, "Fine," Sasuke stomped off to find Hinata. "I'll show you that Uchihas are not cowards. I'll ask Hinata out, then you'll regret what you had said this day." He grinned triumphantly and remarked, "Uchihas, their pride gets them every time." With a toothy smile, Kurama said, "You got that right Kit." After saying, "Now time for operation. Hi, class love is a go," Naruto retreated. Returning to the lake, Hinata was staring at the lake, but she was alert in case she sensed someone was following her. She struck, but Naruto grabbed her wrist. "Sup Hinata? N. 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 Nar. Ruto. K. Kun." Hinata's face was flushed deep red. "Can we talk?" Hinata responds by nodding. "Naruto. Kun wants to talk to me. He actually wants to talk to me." The two took a seat by the lake and took in the view. "Listen Hinata, I know you have a thing for me, but the truth is I don't like you like that," Hinata said, her face flushed so red that she resembled a neon sign. "I'm sorry Hinata, the last thing I wanted to do was hurt you, but I don't want you to chase after someone like me when I'll never return your affection," Hinata said, feeling heartbroken. "I comprehend," she uttered while shedding a few tears. "You know there is someone who can give you much affection." "Kiba. Kun?" She inquired. "Who? What? Oh Kami, no, that guy is just interested in going for the nearest tail, not boyfriend material. This girl may be sweet and innocent, but she really knows how to freak a guy out. Actually, this might sound crazy, but I was actually thinking more on the lines of Sasuke." There was an awkward silence as Hinata simply gazed at Naruto. "Naruto. Kun. H. Have an F. Fever?" Naruto joked. "Who says you're not funny, Hinata?" I thought Sasuke. Kun didn't like dating. Actually he would kill me for telling you this, but the reason he didn't go for the fangirls was because he always had feelings for you. The boy Hinata had always liked and admired told her that he would never feel the same way about her, and she was advised to find someone else. Now, however, she was told the truth. Sasuke had always felt the same way about her for Kami knows how long. This was too much for Hinata to handle. Naruto. Kun. id.don, tkn.kn. No. Hinata, Sasuke is a good guy. I'll admit he was an ass at first when we started as Team 7, but as time passed he gotten better at being a person. Hinata was still unsure, so she said, "I can't believe I'm going to say this. That bastard owes me one. He also saved my life from an A-class missing. Nin on our last mission." Hinata looked at him in shock, as she had assumed Naruto would have saved Sasuke. "I asked him why he saved me and he said that I was important to you. He cares so much for your happiness that he risked his life to save me for your happiness." Surprised by how far Sasuke went to ensure her happiness, Hinata questioned, He circa C. Cares for M.M.met. That much?" Naruto stood up and said, "Yeah, I was surprised myself really. All I'm saying Hinata is just give him a chance, trust me," he said before shushing off. Sitting by the lake, Hinata thought about what Naruto had said about Sasuke. "He went so far for me. No one has ever gone so far for me." She grinned to herself and thought, maybe I could give him a chance. Suddenly, Hinata felt someone behind her. "Oh well, hello Sasuke. Kun." She smiled as she turned to see Sasuke motionless and flushed. "Now what do I do?" Sasuke thought as he swallowed. "Come on, Sasuke, you're at the point of no return," Naruto said as he watched the entire event from behind a tree. Sasuke was quite anxious. W. Well was, Why can't he just wing it like I always did? He's stuttering more than Hinata, goddammit. Because he's not used to being rejected like you always were kid, stated Kurama. "Oh, I see. Hinata said, "Do you want to sit next to me?" "What?" She blushed and stammered, D.doy.uw. Want to sit next to M.me? Whoa, Hinata is taking the initiative. With a drop of perspiration, Kurama asked, "You're enjoying this aren't you?" "Yes. I'd love to," said Sasuke, who was seated beside her. "All right, calm down, Sasuke." Naruto. Kun told M.me. Everything, he what? He told me that you always had F. Feelings F. For M.mes. Since the academy. Naruto believed that he was going to murder him. Sasuke thought, I'm going to kill him, is that so? Y. Yes. The truth is ID. Tr. Really share the S. Same feeling F. For you. I knew this would happen, Sasuke thought sorrowfully as he cast a dejected glance down. Sasuke's eyebrows went up in bewilderment as he said, B. But, he told me W. What you did on your mission. T. That Y. Us. Saved H.M from an A-class M. Missing N.Nin, B. Because H. He W. Was imp. Portent to M.Me. Y.UR. Risked Y. Your life for M.MYH. Happiness. Sasuke was shocked that Naruto had done that for him. The Dobi told her that. S. Sasuke. K.Kun. Looked at her. I don't really KN. No W. What will H? Happen I. If we S. Started S. S. Spending T. Time T. T. Together. B. But I'd like T.Tog. G. Give it a T. Try. I'd like that Hinata and I'd always do anything to keep you happy, Sasuke said with a sincere, joyful smile as he took her hand, causing her to jump a little. When Hinata felt an instinct take over, she leaned in and gave Sasuke a cheek kiss. Both of them glowed bright red after that, but they held onto each other's hand the entire time. Naruto thought, isn't that the cutest thing you've ever seen? You humans and this emotion called love is strange and sickening. As if you had never experienced love before you were lying, Fox, Teme. Sasuke and Hinata continued to gaze into each other's eyes as if they were in a trance. That is, until a kunai flew between them, startling them out of their reverie and making them realize they weren't alone. What the hell? Sasuke cried. Oh no, Hinata muttered, aware of who it was. Who the devil is that? When Naruto saw the newcomer, he thought. A boy with long brunette hair said in a menacing voice, get away from Lady Hinata or I'll end you. N.Neji.Ni.San. The rookie of the year from last year. I was surprised, Naruto thought. With his Byakugan activated, Neji screamed, I'm not going to ask again, let her go. Sasuke continued to hold Hinata's hand and said, listen, I don't care who you are, nobody tells me what to do. Neji said ominously as he assumed his soft fist stance, one last chance Uchiha. Fearing that Neji would harm Sasuke, Sasuke.kun, Hinata. Don't you dare ever tell Hinata-chan what to do, Sasuke said, glaring at Neji while activating his Sharingan. You don't intimidate me and one more thing. Sasuke.kun. Hinata gave him a startled and appreciative look for defending her. Neji charged at Sasuke at breakneck speed but was stopped in his tracks. Should have known you've been here the whole time, Dobi, replied Sasuke. Naruto was holding both of Neji's wrists when Neji kicked him away, saying, sorry, but I wanted to make sure you didn't chicken out. Who are you? Neji inquired. I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Uzumaki. As in this year's dead last. What's so funny? Neji began to laugh. So what if I am? The dead last has to protect the so-called rookie of the year, pathetic. Hey Sasuke, why didn't you try to fight back? He's a part of Hinata-chan's family. I don't intend to harm her family. Hinata gazed at Sasuke.kun with greater admiration. Very noble Sasuke, I'm actually impressed for once. Sasuke grinned and said, what about when I saved you from that missing nin? Knowing that he was using that lie to turn the tables and screw him over now, he said with a drop of perspiration, okay, you've impressed me twice, happy. Neji insulted and prepared to attack, saying, you are supposed to be a prodigy? You're pathetic? Neji.Ni.San, please don't hurt him. Silence. Sasuke stood up and yelled, don't yell at her. Don't get involved in clan matters, Uchiha scum. He positioned himself in front of Hinata and said, Naruto, don't get involved. This is between you and me, not a clan issue. Are you finally going to punch this guy? No, he exclaimed, looking shocked at Naruto, Hinata, and even Neji. I said I would never hurt Hinata-chan's family and I'm true to my word. Sasuke.kun. Hinata felt something inside of her and now had a great deal of respect for Sasuke. Neji charged at Sasuke at full speed, saying, HMPH, fine then makes things easier for me Uchiha. Neji struck Naruto in the stomach, sending him flying into the lake, and Naruto attempted to stop him, but 3 Jonin stopped him in his tracks. A man wearing spandex, leg warmers, and a Jonin flak jacket said, Neji, I expected better from you. He had a bowl haircut and enormous eyebrows that resembled a pair of caterpillars resting on his face. I must say Kakashi, I admire your student's guts and nobility, replied Kurenai. Kakashi said, thanks, Guy. If it's okay with you, please calm your student down. The man had a bowl haircut and enormous eyebrows. Guy looked at his pupil and said, don't worry, Kakashi. Neji, we're going to let you go, and I want you to go home. He insisted, not without Lady Hinata. I'll take her back to the estate, Kurenai replied. I am her sensei after all. Despite his frown, Neji nodded in agreement. When Neji turned around, the three senseis released him, but Naruto responded with a fist. Naruto, who was soaked, remarked, "That was for sending me into the Lake Teme." "Kakashi, that boy of yours has so much youth within him," Guy exclaimed in his characteristic boisterous and youthful way. "Thanks, Guy," said Kakashi, shedding a drop of perspiration. With his eyes returning to normal, Sasuke turned to face Hinata and said, "I apologize, Hinata. Chan for." But before he could finish, Hinata gave him a hug, causing him to blush neon red once more. With tears in her eyes, she said, "I'm sorry about Neji.ni.san Sasuke.kun." Hinata. Chan blushed neon red as Sasuke gave her a hug and reassured her, saying, "You don't have to apologize for anything, you've done nothing wrong." "Okay, you crazy kids, enough of the love before you make Neji here go berserk again," replied Kakashi. They parted ways, which caused Neji to relax a little. Kurenai said, "Come on, Hinata, let's take you home." Hinata turned to Sasuke and said, "Gee. Goodbye Sasuke.kun." She leaned in and gave him a cheek kiss before departing with Kurenai. "Sensei." "You." Understood Kurenai, "Sensei." "Watch yourself, Uchiha," Neji said, glaring at Sasuke before heading off to Kami knows where. Guy teleported to any location after saying, "Well, I'd best be going as well, so long Kakashi and his faithful students." Naruto smiled cheekily and said, "So Sasuke, you think you and Hinata are a thing now?" Naruto. "Yeah, Kaka. Sensei?" Sasuke isn't moving. Naruto saw that Sasuke was motionless as he looked at him. Kakashi and Naruto exchanged glances. Naruto said, "Not it." Kakashi swore, "Not. Damn. Okay, I'll take care of him," he said, hustling away with Sasuke. After hearing some rustling, Naruto turned to face a commotion in the nearby forest and saw Mamoru pursuing a family of rabbits. "Well, that explains where he's been," Naruto said, shrugging and slinking into the village before Sakura abruptly threw him into an embrace. "Sakura-chan?" Sakura excitedly said, "Hi Naruto.kun. What's up?" Naruto inquired, unsure of Sakura's motivation. "I'm ready for our date." "Huh?" Naruto asked, perplexed. "Don't you remember our mission to Wave?" she asked him. "You said that if you came back alive, that we'd go out on a date." "Now I remember, sorry I forgot Sakura-chan. It's been a real busy day, ya know." Sakura smiled and said, "It's okay, so where are we going?" Naruto grinned and said, "Anywhere you want." With a joyful smile, she suggests, "Then I choose the dumpling shop." "Couldn't we go to another place?" Naruto froze. Sakura cried, "Naruto, I thought you said I could choose wherever we'd go?" "I did," Sakura insisted, "then I want to go to the dumpling shop." When he saw Sakura giving him a glare that said, "Go ahead and finish that sentence, I dare you," he stopped talking. "I understand Sakura, but I can't," Naruto said quickly to save himself from agonizing pain. "Agree with you more, the dumpling shop it is." Sakura was now dragging Naruto in the direction of the dumpling shop, and he was thinking, please don't let this end horribly. The dumpling shop. While Sakura was enjoying her dumplings at the dumpling shop, Naruto was keeping an eye out for someone. Sakura was a little alarmed by Naruto's behavior. Naruto.kun. Naruto, oh Sakura, I'm sorry. She said worriedly, "It's okay, but what's the matter?" Naruto acknowledged, "Well, I'm worried." "Worried for what?" "That a certain someone is going to rudely interrupt our date." "Who?" she inquired. A voice cried out, "Naruto-kun." Naruto turned toward the voice so that Ino could tackle him into an embrace. Sakura, furious that her rival had interrupted her date and was now embracing her, "Naruto.kun," yelled, "Ino." Ino exclaimed, "Naruto.kun, I've finally decided who's better and it's you. Go out with me." With great happiness, assurance, and resolve. Something was muttered by Naruto. "What?" Ino questioned. Sakura, who had a noticeable tick mark on her forehead, yelled, "You crushing him with your boobs, you pig." When Ino realized that the person she was hugging was suffocating Naruto with her possessions, she blushed and said, "Oh, letting go of him. Sorry, Naruto.kun," Ino said to Naruto, who was frozen with a perverted smile and a bleeding nose. "So you knew Ino was coming here? Is that why you didn't want to come here?" Sakura asked, punching Naruto upside the head as she became increasingly irate. "Naruto.kun, is it true?" Ino inquired, sensing that Naruto no longer liked her. No, none of that is true, except for the fact that I didn't want to come here." The two competitors questioned, "Why?" as a kunai abruptly nicked Naruto's cheek. A voice on a building's roof said, well, so you rather spend time with those two than me, Foxy Chan? When the three looked up, they saw Anko spinning a kunai around her finger while perched atop a building. Sakura was extremely irate. Isn't that the scary woman from Team Assignment Day? Inquired Ino. No, Anko Chan, you're the best, and I love spending time with you, Naruto replied hastily, perspiration streaming down his face. Sakura yelled, I thought you thought I was the greatest? Well, I do, Foxy Chan. Okay, Naruto was in a bad spot now. Naruto thanked Sakura Chan for the date, whispered, but please listen to me next time about the location, and fled as he nearly got nicked once more. Anko chased after Foxy Chan, leaving the two girls behind, saying, you can't get away from me that easy. Inner Sakura remarked, we should really listen to him more, ya think? Perplexed by what had just transpired, Ino exclaimed, what the hell was that about? Sakura exclaimed, that bitch is after my Naruto-kun. What? Sakura yelled with resolve and fiery eyes, well, that bitch has another thing coming because I am not giving up without a fight. Determinedly, Ino exclaimed, me neither, what the hell did you say, you piggy bitch? You heard me, forehead, Naruto-kun will be mine. Over my dead body. And now there's a new target for the two lovers to pursue, and nobody is going to stop them. Later, oh thank Kami I lost her, was the slip that Naruto was able to give Anko. Lost who, Naruto-kun? Turning, Naruto saw Mako grinning at him. Mako.ne. Chan. He exclaimed, embracing his big sister tightly. It's been so long, I've missed you, Naruto said. She grinned and said, I've missed you too, Ododo. Something felt like a bump on Naruto's stomach. Mako.ne. Chan, your stomach. Oh, I see you've noticed, Naruto uttered the words, it's already been a month. With astonishment. Is it a girl or a boy? I have to know, with excitement. Calm down, Naruto.kun, it's only been a month so the doctors can't confirm it, said Mako. Oh, sorry, nay. Chan, Naruto said after calming down. Don't worry, you'll be a godfather very soon, Ododo, she said with a tender smile. It's okay, I'm very excited too. I can't wait, said Naruto with a smile. She scowled and said, by the way, I met your grandparents and I gotta say your grandfather is a bigger pervert than you are, recalling the old fool who had attempted to spy on her in the estate onsen. Naruto smiled, causing Mako to roll her eyes. Yeah, isn't he great? So what about my grandma? She asked. Let's see, a big bust, an even bigger temper, an A-class alcoholic, huge appetite, and she has worse gambling luck than you. Mako summarized the situation. I don't mean to sound like a bitch, but frankly I can't believe the fourth came from them. Yeah, I'm pretty surprised myself actually, replied Naruto. But they're my family, besides they don't sound as bad as most of the civilians in the village. True, Mako concurred because she was aware of the nature of civilians, particularly those inebriated, perverted bastards whose asses she gladly kicked. Foxy Chan, where are you? Anko asked, searching for him, and judging by her voice, she was quite near. Really? Mako asked, pouting as she turned to face her Ododo. Naruto defended himself by saying, she started it. Anyway, I'll see you later, Mako.ne. Chan. He then fled, hoping Anko wouldn't find him. That kid. I'll just never understand him, Mako thought as she observed where her Ododo was going. Later Naruto ran into something large and soft as he was making his way back to the Hokage Tower to meet up with Zabuza and Haku. Boobies before the owner of the assets cleared her throat, Naruto had a twisted smile on his face from being so close to such enormous melons. Naruto admired a stunning woman with blonde hair and a frown that threatened to kill him if he didn't move 5 feet away from her amazing bust. In the hopes that the curvaceous blonde woman wouldn't kill him, Naruto leapt away and apologized. A voice behind her asked, Tsunade-chan, are we almost there? Gramps? Naruto asked as he turned to see his grandfather holding a massive pile of boxes behind the woman. Jiraiya grinned and said, Hey Naruto, I see you met your grandmother. This is Grandma, Naruto exclaimed, startled by her youthful appearance. However, he quickly recalled the recent events involving his grandmother and thought, I think I'm gonna be sick. So you're Naruto? Tsunade asked, scanning her grandson before getting down on one knee, removing his sunglasses, and gazing into his sky blue, rippled eyes. Sarutobi-sensei was right, you do have the Rinnegan. Naruto was a little uneasy as she stared at him until she grabbed him and pulled him into a warm, comforting hug. I'm sorry, Naruto said, looking at her bewildered. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I'm sorry." She began to cry. "There's nothing to be sorry for," Naruto said, giving his grandmother a hug in return. "Life has a strange way of running its course, ya know," he said. When her grandson pardoned her, Tsunade grinned and said, "Ba-chan, I never thought once in my life to hear those words. Perhaps they could finally be a family now," Jiraiya thought as she watched the scene with a slight smile. Later that evening, after losing a card game to his grandfather, Naruto yelled, "Damn it, how does this keep happening?" Jiraiya exclaimed, laughing aloud, "Wow, you weren't kidding. Your gambling luck is really as bad as Tsunade's." With a dangerous aura surrounding her, Tsunade asked menacingly, "What was that, you old fool?" Sweating bullets, Jiraiya blurted out, "Nothing, Heim." "Those three really are related," said Mamoru, staring at the three with a blank expression. "Anyway, I think that's enough card games for tonight, Naruto. You should go to bed," suggested Tsunade. Naruto said, "Good night, you guys," as he rose from his seat and headed upstairs with Mamoru. "Yeah, you're right, Ba-chan." Tsunade said, "Good night, Naruto-kun." Jiraiya said, "Night, Gaki." In order to avoid waking Mako, who went to bed early, Naruto and Mamoru tiptoed to their room. After entering, they prepared for bed, and Naruto reflected on his entire day as he lay down on his bed. Haku and Zabuza officially became Konoha.nin and now reside in one of the many homes in his estate. He met Shizune, who was like another big sister to him. He saw Mako again and her unborn child was getting closer to being born. He helped his bastard friend get his love interest's attention, and, most importantly, he finally got to go on a date with his dream girl Sakura. Ino and Enko interrupted it, but it didn't matter because he missed them too. For the first time, he appeared to be improving. "Hey kid." When Naruto awoke, he found himself in front of Kurama once more in his own mindscape. "Hey Kurama, why did you bring me here?" he asked. "To give you a friendly warning, don't start raising the dead anymore." "What? Why?" cried Naruto. As much as Naruto didn't want to acknowledge it, Kurama was right. After reviving Haku and Kaiza, he truly felt as though his heart was about to die. Besides kid, reviving the dead is like playing Kami. Sometimes the dead have to remain as they are, dead. "Listen, kid. I know your heart is in the right place, but it's taking too much out of you. You had to rest for 2 days after you revived the ice manipulator and another 2 days after you revived that Inari boy's father. You looked as if you were about to die, and if you die it will only bring more harm to those close to you." "I understand, Kurama," Naruto said, casting a sorrowful glance down. "Down, feel 2 down, kid," Kurama replied. "At least you're back home and now you have not only the ice user, but also your grandparents." "You're right, my life really is starting to get better, thank you Kurama," Naruto said, grinning as he looked up at Kurama. Despite his occasional annoyance, the nine-tailed behemoth actually liked Naruto and smiled at him. "Oh, by the way, before I forget, I wanted to ask you, what was up with that whole thing at the bridge with me looking like a lighted living match with tattoos everywhere?" replied Naruto. "Well kid, you see, when your little ice vixen was detained, you somehow accessed my chakra, but only a small amount," stated the Biju King. "Wow," Naruto gasped. "It was incredible using it. I was stronger and faster, and that was only a small amount of it?" "Yes, but I do not want you to rely on it or use it again unless it's absolutely necessary, understand?" Naruto affirmed. "Yes Kurama." Naruto nodded and was taken out of his mindscape. "That kid is gonna go far." "Good, now go to sleep kid. You have a full day ahead of you." When Naruto woke up, he began to stare at the ceiling and consider what his future held. However, his thoughts were cut short when he heard moaning coming from a few doors below. His grandparents seemed to be gross. In an attempt to block out the loud noises of his grandparents' ecstasy, he hummed and tried to pull the pillow against his head. He had better get used to that, knowing his grandfather, and who knows, maybe he'll get an uncle in the process, Mamoru smirked. In an unidentified place a shadowy figure questioned, "Are you sure of this?" A light voice from a man who appeared to be half plant and half man, with half of his body black, said, "Positive leader. Sama, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki has the Rinnegan. We may have not been able to have seen his eye with his sunglasses in the way, but he performed a jutsu on the bridge that you are most familiar with, one called Shinra Tensai." After a brief period of silence, the leader said, "Thank you for the update, Zetsu." The white half of Zetsu uttered the words, "It was our pleasure, leader, Sama," before vanishing into the earth. "If what they say is true, then what shall we do with this little obstacle?" A second figure approached the leader and stood next to him. After pausing, the leader declared, "We shall proceed as planned." "And the Nine Tails?" We shall deal with it when the time comes, the leader said, opening his eyes to show his rippled purple eyes. After being kept up all night by his grandparents once more, Naruto was napping under a tree in the training grounds for the past month. Naruto has a deep affection for his grandparents, but they have been at odds every single night. He couldn't understand how Mako and Mamoru could sleep through that like a pair of logs because they sounded so loud that half of Konoha probably heard them. Since then, Naruto has been arriving at the training grounds every day looking extremely exhausted. Despite his dislike for the task, he told Sasuke why he appeared so exhausted, which naturally made Sasuke laugh. Naruto told Sasuke in order to prevent Sakura from interfering with his recent daily naps. When Sasuke refused to comply, Naruto threatened to reveal to everyone, including the Hyuga clan, that he had taken and stored a photo of Hinata partially nude at the hot springs. By the way, I apologize for not mentioning that. I forgot how specific you have to be with these things. That was the picture he had in my 5th chapter. Sasuke agreed to assist him with his new sleeping habit after realizing that he was cornered. An irate Hiyashi was one thing, but an entire clan of Hyugas was a surefire way to end his life. While Naruto was snoring under a tree, dreaming of Kami, Sasuke, Sakura, and Mamoru were waiting for Kakashi as usual. This is probably a perverted dream. Yo, greeted Kakashi as he suddenly appeared. Sakura exclaimed, "You're late." Naruto, who had just woken up, exclaimed, What, I'm up. Oh hey Kaka. Sensei, what's up? Kakashi pulled out 3 pieces of paper and said, well actually, I really do have a reason for being late this time. I've recommended you guys for the Chunin exams. Seriously? Exclaimed Naruto with excitement. As he handed the forms to his students, Kakashi said, that's right, all you have to do is take and fill out these forms and take them to the administration office in the academy by this afternoon. They start tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp, don't be late, he said, before vanishing with Naruto's special fire Shushin. Hey you copycat bastard, you stole my move. Calm down Dobi, a jutsu is a jutsu, it's never owned by anybody. Naruto complained and began completing his form, saying, whatever. Later Team 7 completed and submitted their forms. Sasuke went to do what he always does, which is to brood like a complete emo. Sakura was enjoying the day when Naruto and Mamoru abruptly stopped in their tracks while they were strolling through the streets of Konoha, confusing her. Naruto turned to face what appeared to be a rectangular box designed to resemble a rock and said, alright Kono, you know you're not fooling anyone. Beneath the obviously fake rock, a young voice said, hey, I expected nothing less from you, boss. It was time for their introduction when a plume of smoke suddenly emerged from where the prop stood, revealing 3 young children, 2 boys and a girl, wearing white headbands with the word, peace, on them. The 3 looked up to see Naruto standing there, looking down at them with a sweat drop expression, Mamoru, and Sakura, who had a perplexed expression on her face. They were coughing from the smoke. The girl with 2 big orange pigtails declared, I'm Moegi, the sassiest girl in preschool. The brunette boy with glasses and a tiny trickle of snot coming from his right nostril declared, I like math, call me Udon. And I'm Konohamaru, strongest ninja in the village and were. The team Konohamaru, was shouted by the 3 of them. The comment, cute you 3, was made by Naruto, making the 3 young children look bad. Konohamaru complained, it's not supposed to be cute, until he saw the girl with pink hair standing next to Naruto. Hey boss, who's this? He asked. Naruto introduced Sakura, saying, this is her, she's my teammate. Oh, is she yours? Konohamaru said, extending his pinky. Sakura was on the same boat as Naruto, who was blushing wildly and unsure of what to say. Oh, well Truth be told Ni-san, you could do better, Sakura and Naruto responded with deadpan expressions, what? Konohamaru gestured to Sakura's forehead and remarked, I mean come on Ni-san look at her forehead, it's freaking huge. The girl next to him gave Naruto the deadly feeling to, Kono run, before he could speak. What? Why? Just do it. Before Konohamaru could ask again, he realized why he had been instructed to flee and began doing so while Sakura, who was furious, was right behind him. Concerned for her friend, Moegi questioned, should we follow them Ni-san? As the 3 arrived, they were met by a man wearing a black suit and makeup who was holding Konohamaru by the neck. Well, I wouldn't want to get in between Sakura and her ambitions, he said, but then again, I don't want a dead Konohamaru on my conscience, so yeah, we follow. Sakura begged, her concern visible in her eyes, please let him go, it was my entire fault. Shut it Pinky, this brat's got it coming to him for not watching where he's going, said the individual. A blonde with 4 ponytails, a huge fan, and a somewhat skimpy outfit that would have made Naruto's nose bleed from her lovely smooth legs said, "Just let the brat go, Kankuro." Kankuro raised his fist, preparing to punch, after this. But was unable to do so. "Oh, don't worry, Temari, I'll let him go," he said. The white-haired boy with sunglasses was holding Kankuro's wrist when he turned around. He felt a cut on the back of his hand that was holding Konohamaru, causing him to drop the boy. Naruto then dispelled the shadow clone that was holding Kankuro's wrist. "Who the hell are you?" Kankuro cried, holding his bleeding hand, but he was then terrified to death by the sense of the white-haired boy's murderous intent. "Tell your friend to stop hiding in the tree," he said menacingly as he set Konohamaru down. "Someone you don't want to piss off." The sight of a red-headed boy with a gourd on his back, no eyebrows, markings around his eyes resembling those of a tanuki, a Japanese raccoon dog, and the symbol for love on the left side of his forehead caused Kankuro and Temari to start perspiring. "Who are you?" the boy asked as he leapt from the tree and gazed down at the boy with white hair. "Naruto Uzumaki, and you?" "I am Gaara of the Sand." "Nice to meet you, sort of. Anyway, your friend here was harming my pupil, which would have probably caused your village some trouble from Konoha, especially since he's the grandson of the third Hokage." In addition to giving Gaara an excuse to kill him, Kankuro was now sweating bullets and had nearly ruined his entire village. Kankuro, the terrified person, said, "You have brought disgrace to our village." "Gaara, listen, I hope to meet you again, Uzumaki," Gaara said, frightening everyone but Naruto and Mamoru, who merely stared at him. "Silence or I'll kill you," Gaara threatened, revealing his murderous intent. Naruto simply said nothing. Gaara only had to say, "Temari, Kankuro," before they followed him. "You know you could have helped anytime," Naruto said, glancing up at the tree as they were out of hearing range. From up in the tree, Sasuke remarked, "You looked like you had it covered. You seemed a little cautious with that guy with the gourd," he said, jumping down to join the others. With a somber expression, Naruto stated, "It's best to avoid him for now anyway. Coming from you, I'd heed that warning." "You all right, Kono?" Naruto asked Konohamaru as he turned to check on him. "Yeah," he said, massaging his throat, "but thanks to Ni-san, I could have taken him." The words, "No problem, let me treat you three to some ice cream and then take you," lifted their spirits, and they hurried to the closest ice cream shop as Konohamaru and Udon pulled Naruto and Moegi along, carrying Mamoru in their arms. "He's really good with kids," Sakura said, grinning as they ran off. "Shanaru, he'll make a great dad for our kids," Sakura's inner self exclaimed, causing her outer self to blush intensely. Sasuke grinned and joked, thinking of something extraordinary, like the Dobi. Sakura punched Sasuke upside the head after realizing what he meant by extraordinary. It was the first time. 3 enigmatic people were perched in a tree during the entire incident, observing everything that happened. One of them said, "Keep an eye on the 2 with the gourd and shades," as they walked away. The following day Team 7 arrived at the academy, where they had a lot of memories. Naruto was thinking back. The academy. "Remember the good times we had here?" he asked. Team 7 simply reflected on their academy days and found nothing positive. "No, not one Dobi. Yeah, you guys are right, those days sucked." When Team 7 had finished recalling their awful experience, they went inside, ascended the stairs, and discovered 2 other young shinobi holding up a group of genin. One of the 2 shinobi, who had bandage strips on his cheeks and chin and black, spiky hair, said, "You all should just leave." A brunette wearing a bandana and Konoha headband remarked, "Yeah, you're all just gonna die if you take these exams." Naruto asked, "You guys see it too, right?" after realizing it was a ruse. Sasuke said, "Yeah, we better keep moving." Naruto heard a voice he hadn't heard in a while as Team 7 was leaving. A female voice said, "Please, let us through, this is really important to us." When Naruto turned around, he saw a brunette beauty with her hair tied up in 2 buns. She was wearing a pink Chinese sleeveless shirt, green shinobi pants, and the typical blue shinobi sandals which he whispered were called Tenten, when he saw her again. Tenten was one of Naruto's long-term crushes, along with Sakura and Ino, and he was giddy with excitement upon seeing her again. "Holy Kami, she is so beautiful," he exclaimed. Naruto was so engrossed in her that he was unable to hear his teammates calling to him. However, he was able to awaken when he saw Tenten about to receive a blow from the bandaged shinobi. As if by instinct, Naruto was able to stop the bandaged child's hand with such blinding speed that he startled Tenten, the other genin, and even his own teammates. Only Mamoru knew how fast Naruto was, And even he was taken aback because he didn't think he would display his full speed to prevent a random girl from being slapped across the face. Naruto swore as he revealed his murderous intent. Hasn't anyone ever taught you to never lay a hand on a woman before? Hey, let go, you freak, you're hurting me, the spiky-haired child said, clutching his wrist so tightly that he felt it might break at any moment. The white-haired child had the speed of a Jonin and was leaking killer intent to the point of near suffocation. When the other child attempted to punch him, the white-haired boy somehow disappeared and switched places with the spiky-haired child, who was struck by the brunette and knocked down. Looking for me, was said by a voice behind the brunette, who turned around but was hit in the stomach by an uppercut, which sent him flying into the ceiling and then back to the floor, where an older man was surrounded by a plume of smoke. I don't care if you're a chunin, but if I ever see you harm her, Naruto said, pointing to Tenten, or any other female again, I will break your skull with my bare hands. He then turned his shaded eyes to the other one and grabbed him by the collar. At the moment, the disguised chunin was, of course, figuratively spitting his pants. Naruto put his fingers together and uttered, Kai, as he released the chunin, revealing that the room they were attempting to enter, which they believed to be on the third floor, was actually on the second. Naruto said, long time no see, panda girl, as he walked away from Tenten after releasing the genjutsu before beginning to return to his teammates. Tenten was annoyed and perplexed by the white-haired boy referring to her as a panda girl, but then she recalled the only person who ever called her that. Naruto? She muttered, unsure if that was the boy she remembered hanging out with. Without even looking at his teammates, Naruto walked past them and went upstairs. As Sakura and Sasuke gazed at his back, Sasuke remarked, I knew he was strong, but I didn't know the Dobi was that strong. The two simply walked away after Mamoru said, when you use intense emotions you can be surprised at what anyone could do. This left Mamoru perplexed until he realized why they hadn't heard him. Oh, that's right, unless they signed the fox summoning contract they can't hear me until I get older, man, that sucks. After reaching the third floor, Team 7 started to move toward the room they were meant to be in when a voice interrupted them. Hold on, Team 7 turned around and saw a boy wearing green spandex, orange leg warmers, blue sandals, a leaf headband as a belt, and a bowl haircut with enormous fuzzy eyebrows. While Sasuke and Naruto stared at him with frightened expressions and their jaws hitting the ground, Sakura and Mamoru gave him a strangely perplexed look. Sasuke. Yeah, Dobi. Is that a clone of the guy from a month ago, or did he create a jutsu that reversed his age? Honestly, I have no freaking idea. The boy in green spandex said, You, the one with the white hair and sunglasses, who are you? Someone who really doesn't want to be here right now, was Naruto's direct response. Sakura attracted the attention of the green spandex boy by saying, Naruto-kun, be nice. You are Sakura Haruno, correct? He asked once he saw Sakura, and she nodded. The stories of your beauty are true. You are the most gorgeous woman I have ever seen, he said, leaving Sakura unsure of whether to be flattered or alarmed. An irate Naruto wondered, is he flirting with her? He blew her kisses and said, Please be my girlfriend, I will protect you forever. Sakura dodged the first two, but when the third one arrived, a hand grabbed it and crushed it. Sorry, but she's not available, Naruto said, crushing the boy's blown kiss. The boy cried out, What? Who is the one who has her hand? Me, was said with a smirk by Naruto, who placed his arm around Sakura's waist to draw her nearer to him. Everyone was taken aback by his response. Sasuke thought, Damn Dobi, you really are braver than me when it comes to this. Mamoru thought, Kid's got real balls, in response to his best friend's audacious behavior. Sakura cooed, blushing, Naruto-kun, Shanaru, he's ours. He's finally ours. Strip him down and let's celebrate. Inner Sakura cheered, her smile widening. All right, the boy said, assuming a fighting stance. Then I, Rock Lee, challenge you to a fight for Sakura, Sans hand. Did you just treat Sakura-chan like a trophy? Naruto asked menacingly, simply staring at him with a frustrated expression. Mamoru felt sorry for the boy and thought, oh crap, this nut just dug his grave. Naruto may be a pervert, but he hates it when a woman is treated like a material object, especially when it's Sakura. Naruto became enraged and said, You really treat women like a material object? Okay, I'm going to kick your ass, I promise. That won't be necessary, said a voice behind Lee. As much as I want to see Lee toss you around like a ragdoll Uzumaki, I don't wish to be late for the exams. Everyone turned to look at Tenten and Neji. Oh great, the Hyuga. Teme, Naruto remarked, not pleased to see Neji and Sasuke, who gave him a grumpy look. Lee, I thought you were the one who suggested that we shouldn't show our true abilities, Tenten grumbled. Sorry Tenten, but I wished to face Naruto-kun for the hand of Sakura-san. So that really is Naruto-kun. And he has a girlfriend, Tenten thought sadly as she turned to face the boy with white hair. Tenten was one of the few children who didn't treat Naruto badly and enjoyed spending time with him. In fact, she had a slight crush on him when they were younger. Neji, annoyed by his teammates' foolishness, which he blamed on his sensei, said, "Leave enough of you pointless fights to win over some peasant whore." Sakura screamed, "Whore," with murder in her eyes. Naruto was about to kick Lee and Neji in the ass when Sasuke intervened. "Okay, that's it. Fighting will get us nowhere, we have to have as much strength as possible for these exams," said Sasuke. Neji glared at Sasuke and remarked, "At last, something we agree on, Uchiha." The two groups departed in separate directions. "You two know that white-eyed jerk?" Sakura asked as Team 7 made their way to their destination on foot. "Yes, he's Neji Hyuga," replied Sasuke. Prodigy of the Hyuga clan, is a branch member and is Hinata-chan's first cousin. Before realizing, "Wait, Hinata-chan?" she exclaimed, "Really? I can't believe someone like Hinata is actually related to someone like that." When Sasuke realized what he had said, he flushed. Naruto replied nonchalantly, "Oh yeah, Sasuke has had a crush on Hinata for like forever." "Dobi!" Sakura exclaimed, "Was that why you ignored us in the academy?" Sasuke responded, irritated, "Yes, you fangirls could never beat Hinata-chan." She corrected him, saying, "That's ex-fangirl to you." As they approached the door of the room they were given, they noticed Kakashi reading an autographed copy of Icha Icha Paradise while leaning against the wall. Naruto questioned, "No way, Grandpa signed that for you?" Kakashi grinned and said, "Yeah, cool huh? Wait, your grandfather wrote that piece of filth Naruto-kun?" replied Sakura. "It's not filth Sakura-chan." "Yes it is," she screamed, frightening the males, "I can't believe this day. First some weird kid with gigantic freaky eyebrows comes and says he wants to be my boyfriend. I learned that this whole time Sasuke always liked Hinata and now it turns out my boyfriend's grandfather wrote the most disgusting book in history." Before realizing what she had just said, Kakashi said, "Oh so you met Guy's protege. Wait, did she just call you her boyfriend?" he asked Naruto. Naruto attempted to divert everyone's attention by saying, hey we should really get inside, ya know?" He surprised the four by saying, "Yeah you're right, anyway I wanted to wish you luck and say that I'm proud of you three." Naruto grinned and said, "Thanks, Kaka-sensei." The other members of Team 7 also grinned. Kakashi moved aside, allowing his group to approach the door. The three entered a room full of shinobi, all of whom were genin. Surprisingly, some of them were adults, and they glared at them. "Hey Kurama, would you please leak some murderous intent from my body for me?" Naruto used their telepathic connection to ask Kurama. With a toothy smile, Kurama remarked, "I thought you'd never asked." "Thanks Kurama, I think you got the message across." Suddenly, as he asked, Kurama released killer intent from Naruto's body, frightening them so much that they either messed their pants or went into a frozen state. To which Kurama replied, "Anytime Kit." With Kurama's assistance, Naruto felt triumphant as the genin turned away from them or excused themselves from the room to change their pants, but he was thrown into an embrace. A voice squealed, "Naruto-kun." When Sakura saw her bitter rival embracing her new boyfriend, she exclaimed, "Ino." With her tongue protruding, Ino said, "Oh hey forehead girl." Sakura glared and yelled, "Get your hands off my boyfriend, instead." Ino glared back, "Oh please, he's not your boyfriend." She cried out, "Yes he is pig." After that, the two began insulting and glaring at one another. Shikamaru asked, "Did I just hear Sakura right?" as he arrived on the scene carrying his best friend Choji and some chips. "Did she just say you were her boyfriend?" he asked. Choji inquired, "When did that happen?" "About 5 minutes ago," was Sasuke's direct response. They were all too familiar with the loud voice that said, "Hey looks like the gang is all here." Kiba felt irritated by teams 7 and 10. "I see the dead last made it too along with his little rat," insulted Kiba. "Oh screw you Kiba, I'm 10 times stronger than you dog breed and Mamoru is not a rat, he's 1,000 times cleaner than you," replied Naruto. Kiba retorted, "That thing is not 1,000 times cleaner than me." Naruto burst out laughing as Mamoru yipped something. Kiba cried out, "What did he say?" "He said, maybe so, but at least he's 1,000 times smarter than you," translated Naruto. "You two think you're so tough, huh? You guys are just copycats of me and Akamaru." Mamoru gave another yap. "What the hell did he say now?" Naruto translated, he said it's pronounced, Akamaru and I. Ino remarked, wow, he really is smarter than Kiba. Shut it, Blondie. When Naruto yelled, hey, don't talk to her like that, dog breathed, Ino blushed because he was standing up for her. Why don't you make me fox shit? Before Mamoru spoke, Naruto was prepared to give in to him. Don't, Naruto, he's not worth it, besides we have to not show our true strength, remember? You're right, Mamoru, Naruto said as he began to calm down. Please, you're just saying that, because you two are just cowards, chided Akamaru. Nice one, Akamaru, Kiba remarked. Who are you calling a coward, you dirty old mutt, replied Mamoru. Akamaru shot back, you're the only dirty bastard here. At least I'm not old like you, I can see a little turkey neck hanging there. Mamoru leapt down from Kiba's head and growled, oh that's it, I'll kick your ass, you bastard, women won't even get near you after I'll be done with you. Well, at least they'd rather deal with me than you, considering you smell like toilet water. That's it. Mamoru and Akamaru suddenly began lunging and assaulting one another, but Naruto and Kiba pulled them apart. Calm down, Mamoru. Damn, Akamaru, chill. In case you were unaware, only Naruto can understand Mamoru and vice versa. The same is true for Kiba and Akamaru, but Mamoru and Akamaru can converse or even insult one another. What was that all about? Choji asked, shocked by the fight the Fox Kid and Pup had just had, as were the other members of his team, teams 7 and 8. It's just how foxes and dogs are, said Shikamaru, they constantly fighting each other, it's been that way for a long time, troublesome. Well, you're not as cool as you think, fox shit, in fact a new girl in the village digs me, said Kiba. Last time I checked Kiba, she told you to get lost since you annoyed her, and when you didn't leave she used an ice jutsu on you, stated Shino. Kiba shouted, which side are you on, Shino? Wait a minute, was the just you she used called 1,000 Needles of Death? Replied Naruto. Yeah, how'd you know? Kiba inquired. Naruto laughed at what his favorite ice user had done to Kiba and exclaimed, ha 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 ha, that was Haku, man, I love that girl. Wait, you know her? Everyone gasped when Sasuke replied, he not only knows her, she's also in his little harem. As Mamoru laughed, Naruto yelled, would you quit it with the whole harem thing? When Naruto turned around, he saw the Lee child teleport in front of him, a harem. Naruto thought, oh no, not him. You dare call yourself Sakura-san's boyfriend when you were creating a harem? I will now fight you for her hand, Lee said, assuming his stance as his teammates approached to make sure he didn't do anything that would result in their expulsion from the exam. Naruto breathed deeply and said, alright, listen, you look like a nice guy, Lee, but I swear if you keep treating Sakura and other girls like trophies, I'll smash your skull in. Sasuke said, whoa, calm down, Dobi, preventing Naruto from attacking Lee. A voice approaching them remarked, wow, you guys really are loud. When the teams turned around, they saw a gray-haired Konoha.nin with his hair in a short ponytail and glasses. Kiba cried out, who the hell are you? Oops, I almost forgot. My name is Kabuto Yakushi. Kabuto began. You seem like nice kids, but these exams are no joke. Many have failed numerous times in these exams, myself included. Mamoru, Sasuke, and Naruto thought this guy was trouble. Sakura inquired, how many times did you take these exams? According to Kabuto, 7 times actually, Kiba remarked, man, you really suck then. He pulled out a deck of cards and said, I wouldn't say that, besides, it has its advantages. What are those? Ino inquired. These are ninja info cards, name any one, add some chakra and these cards will tell all the stats of said shinobi. Any of you want to know a little more about someone? Yes, Lee replied. Please check Naruto Uzumaki. Oh, this cannot be good, Naruto was thinking. After rearranging the cards, Kabuto removed one, inserted his chakra, and soon after, a picture of Naruto and his status appeared. Let's see, Naruto Uzumaki, born on October 10th, has a high Jonin ninjutsu, a mid Chunin taijutsu, extremely low genjutsu, and a high cage level chakra capacity. Everyone stared at Naruto, astonished by how high his chakra capacity was. Wait, what's this? Everyone looked at him, waiting to see what he discovered. This is unbelievable, Kabuto exclaimed in shock. You're the grandson of Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju of the Sannin. Sounded so significant that everyone listening and wanted to tell her what he had discovered as well. They all turned to Naruto in utter shock. Naruto yelled, how the hell did you know that? As he glared at Kabuto and revealed his intention to kill. It's what's on the card, he responded quickly, and it also says you signed the Fox summoning contract and you have the Rinnegan? Alright, that was it. You have exactly 5 seconds to tell me how the hell you know all that, and 2 already passed, Naruto said as he tackled Kabuto and slammed him against the wall. Kabuto tried to persuade Naruto, saying, "It was on the card, don't blame me." At first, he didn't see him as a threat, but after reading the final section of his information card, he realized that he shouldn't upset Naruto just yet. "All right, maggots, that's enough. Violence will not be permitted unless permission is given. Not cease and desist or you will be terminated from the exams," a terrified man in a black trench coat and black bandana with several chunin behind him said as a poof suddenly appeared from the front of the class. "Keep an eye on that Kabuto guy, he's bad news," Naruto said to his teammates after releasing Kabuto. Sakura remarked, "You don't have to tell us twice." Everyone in the room turned to watch the man wearing a bandana as he said, "Okay, listen up. I'm Ibiki Morino, and welcome to the first part of the Chunin exams." "Welcome to hell," Ibiki declared. Later everyone was going crazy over the first portion of the exams for 55 minutes, though some people were still composed. A written test comprised the first portion of the exams. The rules were straightforward. Each participant was given a seat. There were 10 questions, 9 of which were on the sheet, and the final one would be revealed at the end of the allotted time. And each person started the test with 10 points. If they answered a question incorrectly, they would lose 1 point, and if they were caught cheating, they would lose 2 points each time. If any of them lost 10 points, they would not only fail the test but also their teammates. The more astute shinobi realized that the real purpose of the tests was to cheat, but they had to avoid being discovered. They made every effort to do so. We'll see how our 12 favor Leaf.nin are doing instead of worrying about the teams that were disqualified from the exams for cheating 5 times and losing all 10 points. Team Guy was doing well. Neji recorded the responses after using his Byakugan to see what the others were correcting. In order to replicate other Genin's tests, Tenten used mirrors that she managed to install in the room using strings she tied to her fingers. She also assisted Lee by allowing him to use the mirrors. Team 8 was performing admirably. Shino helped obtain the answers from other Genin's tests by using his Kakaichi bugs. Akamaru, Kiba's closest friend, provided him with the best answers after examining the nearby Genin tests. At first, Hinata was anxious and self-conscious about her performance, but when the test began, she turned to face Sasuke, who smiled and nodded, wishing her luck. Over the course of the month, Sasuke and Hinata were able to spend some time together before Neji repeatedly interrupted them. Sasuke helped her gain some self-confidence and self-esteem, which changed Hinata's perception of Sasuke. Sasuke believed in her at the moment, and she supposes she could believe in herself if he did. Team 7 was performing admirably. Using his Sharingan, Sasuke copied the response from a Genin, whom he could plainly see was a Chunin in disguise, and noted the right answers. Sakura was passing the test with ease because she was applying her intelligence. Naruto had 3 options for passing the test. He could use his Rinnegan, which was concealed behind his sunglasses, to see what people were writing. He could get his friend Mamoru to do exactly what Akamaru was doing for Kiba, or he could find the best way to get Kurama to give him the answers he had learned from his first 2 hosts, Mito Uzumaki, his great-grandmother, and Kushina, his mother. The third option was chosen by Naruto, and Kurama agreed to assist since, like Naruto, he didn't like that Kabuto guy and wanted to see Naruto rip his head off. In fact, he had a familiar snake-like scent. For the most part, the guys on Team 10 were doing well. Given that all Naras were extremely intelligent, Shikamaru completed the test with ease. To help his best friend Shoji, he allowed him to copy his answers while he used a genjutsu to make it appear as though he was eating chips the entire time. "Thanks for your generous offer of giving me your answers, Sakura," Ino wrote after waiting for Sakura to finish her test, which took a while. She then used her clan's special jutsu, the Shintenshin no Jutsu, on Sakura, to enter her mind and memorize all of her answers. After 5 minutes, the door unexpectedly opened, revealing the Suna.nin who had been harassing Konohamaru the day before. Ibiki smirked and said, "I see you are done playing with your dolls." Konkuro's eyes widened at the remark. Konkuro put a piece of paper on his blonde teammate's table as he walked by her. After 5 minutes all of the Genin looked at Ibiki bewilderedly as he said, "Pencils down. It's time for the final question, but this year I'm doing something a little different. You can choose to take the question, but there's a catch. If you answer the question incorrectly you will not only be kicked out of the Chunin exams, but you will never be allowed to take it again, which means you'll be stuck as Genin forever." "Hey, that's bullshit," said Kiba. "There are people here who have taken these exams before, the rest of us don't know jack shit about this." "True, but they never had me as a proctor before," Ibiki replied with a wry grin. "There is also a second option. You can drop out from the exams this year and come back next year with another chance to become Chunin. Many Genin teams had left as Ibiki was finishing because they didn't want to take the chance. Naruto thought, pathetic, until he noticed Hinata sitting next to him. She was shaking like a leaf, looked like a wreck, doubted herself, and began to slowly raise her hand. It appeared as though Naruto had to intervene and save Sasuke's girlfriend, because he knew Sasuke wouldn't know what to do in this circumstance. Naruto abruptly got up from his chair, attracting everyone's attention. Number 47, are you forfeiting? No way, if I just gave up then I don't even deserve to be a ninja, was Naruto's brief statement, but it was clear enough for the other genin in the room to understand. He simply stared at Ibiki with resolute eyes. Knowing what Naruto meant, Hinata gazed up at him with admiration. Ibiki looked directly into Naruto's eyes and said, "You do realize that if you fail to answer this question, you'll be a genin for the rest of your life." With a toothy smile, Naruto declared, "I don't care, I never back down, that's the way of the ninja." As Naruto said, with just a few simple words he inspired the whole room to not surrender. Ibiki looked around the room and saw that everyone had determined eyes. "So no one else will be forfeiting?" he asked, to which the genin stared at him with unwavering determination in their eyes. "Well, in that case, you all pass." For a brief moment, the room was quiet. "What?" they all cried. Tamari, Asuna Kunoichi, questioned, "But what about the 10th question?" "There is no 10th question, unless you count choosing to either stay or forfeit being the 10th question." All the genin except for Naruto were stumped. "Let me paint a picture for you. You and your team are sent on an infiltration mission to extract information from an enemy ninja base. There is a great possibility that you will die. Do you run away or go through with the mission?" All the genin looked at him silently. A true ninja goes through with a mission. Even when the stakes are high and the odds are against him, he still moves on with the mission for his village. That is the role of a chunin. Ibiki then took off his bandana and showed everyone the many scars and holes on his scalp which shocked everybody and made a few want to puke. A ninja must endure pain and torture for their village and never falter. That is the role of a chunin. He finished then put his bandana back on. "I am proud to see that there are many shinobi with potential, and so I'd like to say congratulations and I wish you all." But before Ibiki could finish his sentence a metal ball went through the window landing in front of Ibiki and released smoke which revealed a banner that said, "Proctor of the second exams, Enko Midarashi," with said woman appearing in front of the banner. Her? Sakura and Ino thought angrily. When Naruto saw her again, Mamoru and Sasuke thought, "Oh no," as they glanced at him to see what they had already anticipated. Score. When Naruto saw his favorite busty snake mistress, he thought, "I'm excited." He had a perverted smile and a nosebleed. She yelled enthusiastically, "All right kids, no time for relaxing, come on, to the next part of the exams," but all she got in return was a room full of silence. At least she got Naruto's attention, judging by the twisted expression on his face. The blunt statement, "You're early again," came from Ibiki. "Damn Ibiki, this many passed, you're really getting soft," Enko teased her partner as she counted all the fresh meat, potential shinobi, that she had to break, test. Enko heard him mumble, "Well, it's not my fault, we have many potential shinobi this year, and besides it was all your boyfriend's doing." "Whatever you say, teddy bear," she teased Ibiki once more, aggravating him. "All right, you brats, meet me at training ground 44 in an hour and if you're late you fail the exams." Enko then shushed away. Naruto then used his signature fire shushin to go home and get a few things before heading to the training grounds, shocking everyone, including the Chunin and Ibiki, that he could perform such a shushin. And so it begins. Mamoru surprised everyone by performing the same shushin as Naruto, but the rest of Team 7 once more demonstrated that even a fox can perform the same action. At the lounge of Jonin Sensei, "I am being serious," Kakashi, guy said, defending his most youthful pupil, because Lee would make a great boyfriend for a young lady. Without taking his eyes off his autographed Icha Icha Paradise, Kakashi said, "I'm sure he would, guy, but please tell him to stop harassing my student with his boyfriend requests." Harassing? All Lee is doing is expressing his love for your young female blossom? Well, either way she already has a boyfriend, so please tell Lee to leave her alone. WHO is this boy. WHO has earned the hand of your female student? My other student Naruto, the one with the white hair and sunglasses? That's him? A voice said, so my grandson has a girlfriend, huh? The four Jonin, Kakashi, Guy, Asuma, and Kurane, turned to see Jiraiya perched on the window sill. Everyone said, "Jiraiya, Sama," and bowed, with the exception of Kakashi, who waved. Kurane asked in shock, "Wait a minute, Naruto is your grandson? That's correct, he said, grinning broadly with pride. She finally put the puzzle together and said, that explains why he's such a pervert. I know, isn't he great? He grinned, causing Kurane to perspire and frown. Like grandfather like grandson, I guess, he said. Asuma inquired, Jiraiya-sama, why are you here? I came to inform you that your students finished the first part of the exams. How do you know? Kurane inquired. I just saw Naruto at home grabbing supplies like a lighter, hunting knife and food. All he kept saying was, no time, Sakura. Chan, Ino. Chan, Tenten. Chan, Hinata and other losers. Past, Forest of Death. Must see sexy Anko and get action before loser Genin come around, and then he shunshined away. Asuma was laughing aloud. Kakashi laughed at Naruto's antics, Kurane was sweating and frowning once more, and Guy was perplexed by the word sexy throughout it all. Asuma continued to laugh a little and remarked that Naruto, he always goes crazy whenever Anko is involved somehow. Guy, who was generally perplexed, asked, could someone please explain what this all has to do with Anko? Yeah, I'd like to know as well. I know that Anko Mitarashi is the proctor for the second part of the Chunin exams, but what's the relationship between her and my grandson? Allow me to explain, Jiraiya-sama, replied Kakashi. You see, for 6 years ago Naruto met Anko in the Forest of Death when he was hiding from the villagers and shinobi, for caused some pranks that they didn't find funny. Since then, for the next 6 years Naruto and Anko had this relationship. What kind of relationship? Jiraiya inquired, genuinely curious about the connection between his grandson and the former apprentice of his old teammate. Oh, you know, games of cat and mouse where she tries to rip his pants off, they flirt with each other, make out, do adult things. In fact, if I recall, Naruto told me he once saw her naked. What? They all cried out. A drooling, nosebleeded Jiraiya asked, how naked? Fourth base. Following the response, Jiraiya's jaw dropped to the ground. Kurane, who desired to castrate Naruto, exclaimed, when did this happen? About a year before he graduated from the academy, she let him see her fully naked and gave him his first kiss, Kakashi stated bluntly. A growing curiosity about Naruto's lucky day, Asuma inquired, where was this? The hot springs. Everybody's response to this was different. With a nosebleed and his jaw on the ground, Asuma couldn't believe how fortunate Naruto was for being only 12. Guy was astounded by Anko's unyouthful use of Naruto to satisfy her erotic desires. Kurane's only goals were to murder Naruto and to glare at Anko as though she were a child. In fact, she was essentially a child in an adult body with a perverted mind that was aware of adult behavior. Jiraiya was in tears. Kakashi said, Jiraiya-sama, are you okay? With tears of happiness, he said, yes, adding, it's just, I'm so proud of my grandson. All of the Jonin said, of course, with the exception of Guy, who could understand Jiraiya's pride in Naruto. Jiraiya grinned proudly and remarked, to think my own grandson got lucky at the age of 12. To ensure Jiraiya didn't misunderstand, Kakashi clarified, I never said he had sex with Anko. Kurane replied, no, but the little brat almost did. The men all gazed at her in disbelief. Pardon me, Kakashi said. The guys were clearly shocked that Naruto was so close to finally getting laid by Anko. But as long as I'm around he's not going to get near Anko with that damn thing near her. Before he left on that away mission your team had about a month and a half ago, he and Anko were planning on doing it until I came and stopped them. Jiraiya wished his grandson luck, thinking, women always get to cock-block men. Come on Kurane, let the kid live a little. Besides, when Tsunade hears about this she'll probably put a restraining order on Anko to keep her away from Naruto, replied Kakashi. Guy questioned, why would she do that? Jiraiya stated, because my Haim is Naruto's grandmother. With the exception of Kakashi, every Jonin exclaimed, what? It's true, replied Kakashi. Boy, she really knows how to keep men on their toes. With a sly smile, Jiraiya remarked, you're just saying that because she's keeping an eye on you whenever you wanted to ask Shizune out for dinner, which made Kakashi blush. So you're trying to make up for lost time, Kakashi? Asuma asked, laughing aloud as he recalled how Kakashi used to have a crush on Shizune when they were younger and would constantly try to ask her out to lunch. Yosh. My eternal rival is in love with Shizune. San, how could I have not seen it before? Shouted Guy. Kakashi surprised everyone in the room by saying, shut up Guy. However, they all began to laugh at him, and he simply returned to his book in an attempt to ignore them. At the Forest of Death, Training Ground 44, when Naruto Fire Shushined arrived at the training grounds, he saw Anko eating dango and sipping beer while perched on a rock with one leg over the other. She smiled and remarked, "I see you made it before the others." After removing his sunglasses, Naruto said, "I'd do anything to get some alone time with you, sexy." Anko had just finished her lunch and gave him a seductive smile before the two began making out. Anko ran her fingers through Naruto's hair as he slowly moved one of his hands down Anko's waist and squeezed her butt cheek, causing her to groan, and their intense, passionate kiss turned into a tongue war that neither of them was going to back down from. As Anko began removing Naruto's jacket and he began removing her trench coat, they were about to remove the lower portion of their clothing when they heard someone clear their throat, which Anko perceived as a series of yips. "Go away, I'm trying to get lucky here," Naruto said, waving his best friend away as they both looked down to see Mamoru staring at them deadpan. Naruto then resumed making out with Anko. Naruto was told by Mamoru, "You know the rest of your team is almost here." "What?" Naruto exclaimed as he let go of Anko to retrieve his jacket, using his Rinnegan to see Sakura and Sasuke making their way to the training ground. "Aw damn it, can't anyone let me have any fun with the most hottest woman in the world?" Anko was also unhappy. All she wanted to do was deflower Naruto and formally start having sex with him. Unfortunately, these morally upright idiots just kept interfering and ruining their fun. Really, what was wrong with her finally having sex with Naruto? He likes her, she likes him, and age is irrelevant. Definitely not her and Naruto. Naruto was depressed when he said, "Sorry, we couldn't finally get down to business, Anko-chan," until he felt Anko grab him and press his face against her breast. "Don't worry, Foxy-chan. It'll happen, just wait a little longer, cause when the time comes, I will not write down every detail that Anko says for those of you readers who are squeamish, but I will write this." After hearing the snake mistress describe what she would do to his best friend, Mamoru's eyes widened like dinner plates and his jaw literally fell to the ground. After releasing Naruto from Anko's grasp, she went off to do something before the other young brats arrived at her playground. Naruto, with his best friend still wearing his shocked expression, had a huge, perverted toothy grin and a nosebleed that seemed to need medical attention. As Sakura and Sasuke anticipated, Naruto and Mamoru were already present when they arrived at the training ground. Sakura cheerfully said, "Hi Naruto-kun," to her new boyfriend. However, she noticed that he had a completely perverted expression on his face, which infuriated Sakura because she knew he had probably done something with that snake bitch. Sakura punched him in the head, and when she saw Mamoru's incredibly shocked expression, she scratched him behind his ear, which helped him come out of his trance. The two best friends looked at Anko as they were brought back to reality, recalling what had just transpired. Mamoru remarked, "That woman is sick." Sakura gave Naruto another blow to the head after he yelled, "That woman is hot, and someday I want to marry her." Sakura muttered, "Damn horny snake bitch. I wanted to thank you for doing that speech in the first part of the exams. I saw Hinata about to raise her hand to forfeit and you really came through by inspiring her," Sasuke began, drawing Naruto's attention. Naruto grinned, "It was no problem Teme, glad I could help two good friends," and Sasuke smiled back. Naruto-kun. Team 7 turned to see Ino sprinting in their direction, her two teammates far behind. "That was incredible speech you gave back there," she said, much to Sakura's dismay. Naruto answered, Thanks Ino, it means a lot." She hoped it was a lie, but Ino pointed to Sakura, who scowled at her and said, "Just wondering was forehead here telling the truth about you and her being boyfriend and girlfriend?" "Well, you see, that Lee guy from earlier was trying to make Sakura his girlfriend and I could tell he wasn't going to say no for an answer, so I stepped in and told him I was Sakura's boyfriend," said Naruto. She squealed and embraced him, saying, "So technically you're not her boyfriend. That means you're all mine, Naruto-kun." Sakura yelled, "Get away from her, you shallow bitch," with fire in her eyes, shocking both her team and Team 10. She had never referred to Ino as a shallow bitch, and even that was too much for their rivalry. Ino asked, "Geez, forehead, what was that?" She usually just called her a pig, but this was the first time she had heard her use that term. With a look that suggested playtime was over, she threatened her, saying, "I'm telling you to get away from my man before I break both your wrists and shove your head up an Inuzuka dog's ass." "Sakura, what's wrong with you?" Ino inquired, genuinely concerned about her friend's condition. She gave Ino a death glare and yelled, "What's wrong with me? You don't even like Naruto the way I do. You just want to date him because of his looks?" "Well, so do you," Ino retorted. Sakura said, "No I don't, I love him." With the exception of Shino, who isn't known for expressing his feelings, everyone, including the recently arrived members of Team 8, stared at her in disbelief. Unable to fully comprehend the concept, Ino questioned, What do you mean by you love him? Sakura decided to share the feelings she had been experiencing since team assignment day after cornering herself due to that small outburst. Whenever I'm sad he makes me smile, whenever I'm scared I think of him and I'm not afraid anymore. He's always been there for me even when I was always a total bitch to him and he still stays by my side, and no matter what he always puts me in front of himself or anyone, and most importantly he complimented me on the feature I actually made me feel like I was actually attractive. She felt that she had ruined their friendship and their future, but at the moment, it didn't matter because all she wanted was to hold him for as long as possible. Even Shino, a rookie genin, was taken aback, but he maintained his cool. Although Sakura made it obvious that she had feelings for Naruto, they were all surprised to learn that she was truly smitten with him. This is unquestionably the biggest shock they have ever witnessed. Well damn, this day keeps getting weirder, said Kiba. As a result, Ino punched him in the face. Naruto was unsure of how to feel. He had always desired Sakura's love and now had it, but he didn't know how to feel. No, he knew how he felt, but he didn't want to share it with everyone, as if it were a free show. As everyone stared at them, Naruto simply began to pat her back in an attempt to console her. Alright, you guys go somewhere else, these two need their space, Sasuke said, allowing the two to have their moment after realizing it was a profound moment. Team 7 was left alone after Team 8 and 10 decided that Sasuke was correct. While Sasuke and Mamoru were searching elsewhere, Naruto and Sakura felt that they ought to give them a sense of isolation. Sakura-san. A voice called out. Sasuke and Mamoru thought, oh crap, realizing who the voice belonged to. Sakura-san, why are you crying? Exclaimed Lee as he ran to them, but Naruto's punch rendered him unconscious. After grabbing Lee by the legs and pulling him toward his team, Sasuke simply said, I didn't do it, and turned to leave after Neji and Tenten gave him the look. Sakura was able to restrain herself somewhat better than Naruto. He asked, feel better? And received a nod. After grabbing Sakura's chin and raising his face to eye level, Naruto removed his sunglasses. Sakura, every time I see you, you make me smile. Every time I'm away from you I keep feeling like screaming for you to come back to me. Every time I look into your eyes I get lost in your beauty. And every time I see that wide and charming forehead of yours it just always makes me want to kiss it. He said, leaning in closer. I love you too, he said, planting a kiss on her gorgeous lips. Even though this was Naruto's third kiss, it was Sakura's first real kiss and she felt like she was in heaven. Ah, cute, I don't really give a $. If you guys don't like that I put this here. It was time to start when the remaining genin arrived at the training ground. Alright maggots, welcome to training ground 44, or better known as, the Forest of Death, said Anko. Here the rules are simple, you go in and make sure you don't die. Very basic Anko. Chan. Naruto believed that even though he loved Sakura, Anko could still bring him back. For this part of the exams each team will get one of two scrolls, an Earth Scroll or a Heaven Scroll. Your objective is to get both scrolls in order to do so. Well, I think that's pretty obvious. Once you obtain both scrolls you must head to the center of the forest where there's a tower. That is your goal. But be warned, if open your scrolls before getting the other or getting to the tower then you will be disqualified. You have only 5 days to complete this part of the exams. 5 days? Ino cried. A nervous Choji asked, what'll we do for food? In the hopes that he would still be able to eat. The majority of the genin, especially poor Choji, were alarmed by Anko's casual response. Oh, don't worry, there's a bunch of berries in the forest, although there are a lot of poisonous ones in there, so you might want to be careful. She displayed a sheet form and said, oh, and one more thing. You have to sign these. A random genin asked, why? The statement, oh, these are waivers that state if you die in the forest your villages won't hold me responsible for any of it, further alarmed the genin. With the exception of Naruto, who had a valid excuse as well, he saw the Forest of Death as his own playground and knew it like the back of his hand. Each person had 30 minutes to obtain a scroll and sign their waivers. Sakura was merely staring at the enormous fence, slightly terrified of what lay beyond. Hey Sakura. Sakura turned to face Ino on her left. Oh hey Ino, she said, glancing at the ground. Concerned for her best friend and fiercest rival, Ino inquired, how are you feeling? I'm okay, thank you. Sakura responded, Ino, I'm sorry about earlier. Hey, it's alright. You found someone you love and you didn't want to lose him. I understand, Ino reassured. But you're wrong about me only liking Naruto-kun for his looks. Huh? You see, I realized that Naruto-kun was a good guy. When he was gone with you guys on your mission I looked back to when Naruto was still in the academy. She recalled. I mean, sure he was annoying, but I guess we were all annoying in our own little way. Sakura concurred. Yeah, that's true, but I realized that if you looked past what everyone said about Naruto-kun, Then you come to realize he was actually a really nice guy. That's true. The statement, plus you gotta admit, those whisker marks do make him look cuter, caused Ino to blush. Sakura blushed and acknowledged, that's also true. And now he's more mature and he's very considerate of everybody. Ino, where are you getting at? Look Sakura, I really think Naruto-kun is the nicest guy I've ever met and I just wanted to let you know that I still like him and I want to get to know him more, because I feel that he might be the only guy the first can actually be myself around. Sakura asked, Ino, are you actually crushing on Naruto-kun? As her eyes widened slightly. Ino blushed and gave Sakura a shy glance before nodding. Sakura was shocked to discover that she had an unexpected crush on Ino, even though she had previously assumed that he was merely attempting to take Naruto to get even with her. Ino conceded defeat, saying, but I can't get near him because you won him fair and square. Sakura didn't like seeing her friend in this manner. In reality, she and Naruto weren't even lovers. Naruto had only claimed to be her boyfriend to get Lee off her back, and she had been abusing it to get Ino and the other girls vying for Naruto's attention. However, they only went on a single date, which was cut short, and a single date doesn't indicate a romantic relationship. Actually Ino, I didn't win Naruto-kun over, he was telling the truth. He lied by saying he was my boyfriend so that Lee guy would leave me alone. I knew it, oops, sorry, it's alright, so you still have a shot. Hold on forehead, I thought you said you loved him about an hour ago? I do love him and he loves me too, but who knows, maybe he might love you more than me. Ino was shocked to hear, Sakura, are you hearing yourself? You're actually giving him up? No, I'm just saying that we shouldn't fight over Naruto-kun like this, it's stupid. I mean we've fought over Sasuke and look where that brought us. Ino was unable to disagree. All I'm saying is this time we should let Naruto-kun decide. But Sakura, Naruto-kun is too much of a nice guy to choose between us. I know, but I don't want you to be sad Ino. You want a chance with Naruto-kun and so do I. So we'll both go on a separate date with him and we'll make him choose. I mean he can't have two girlfriends, right? Well, I don't think so, so we'll give it a shot? After giving it some thought, Ino said, alright. Sakura grinned and said, besides he's too much of a pervert to resist an offer like that. Yeah, he sure is. After saying their goodbyes, the two laughed and began to move in the direction of their teams. Sasuke, Mamoru, and Naruto hung out until the end of the half-hour. Sasuke began by saying, so Sakura is in love with you. Naruto answered, yeah, pretty unexpected huh? Maybe for you, but I saw the signs. How did you see them? Uchihas see all. Naruto simply sighed. Besides you gotta admit she was showing some signs of romance, even an idiot like you can notice. The words, I can't believe we're actually best friends, were spoken by Naruto as he simply stared at him. Same here, say Sasuke. How about helping your best friend out get a little one-on-one time with that sexy brunette there? Naruto said, pointing to Tenten and Neji as he looked to his right, but Lee was nowhere to be seen. Sasuke smirked and said, geez Dobi, I didn't take you for the bisexual type. You wanna talk to Neji? Naruto remarked cynically, ha ha Sasuke you're hilarious. I'm talking about Tenten. You know her name? Me and her go way back to the academy. We used to hang out a lot back then. She was one of the only few who didn't treat me like crap. He recalled the pleasant times they had together. But then I saw all the glares the villagers sent at her and her family and I knew that something bad was going to happen to her if she kept hanging out with me, so I stopped spending time with her just to protect her. With sincere interest, Sasuke questioned, that sounds pretty serious, but why would the villagers attack her just because she hung out with you? Mamoru simply shrugged and said, it's a secret, as Naruto looked down at him. Sasuke attempted to persuade him, saying, you can tell me Naruto, you can even tell Sakura, we're your friends. Sasuke was correct. If Naruto had learned anything from his grandfather, it was that life is fleeting and that you should always take a chance and have faith in your friends. Sasuke nodded sympathetically. All right, but I want to tell Sakura too, I don't want to leave her in the dark. So will you help me? He asked. Sure, but how? Well, with Mr. Uptight asshole over there I can't get near her, so what I want you to do is go talk to Hinata. Once Neji sees you getting chummy with his cousin again he'll go over to you too and try to kick your ass again, you in? After saying, you had me at go talk to Hinata. Chan. Sasuke immediately went to speak with Hinata, who was seated on the ground. Sasuke said, hi Hinata. Chan, as he approached her. Oh. Hello. Os Sas. Suk, K.Kun, H. How are Y.U? I'm fine and you? I'm actually AL, little n, nervous. With sincere concern, Sasuke questioned, because of the forest? Y. Yes. I almost G. Gave up D. During T. The F. First P. P. Part O. Of T. The exams, Hinata replied with a nod. I know, I saw, Hinata said, casting a worried glance at Sasuke. If it weren't for Naruto, you wouldn't be here. Looking down sorrowfully, Hinata assumed, you're disappointed in me, are you? No, I'm not, he said worriedly, bending down to put his hand on her shoulder. Hinata, I'm just happy that Naruto inspired you again to keep moving, he said. You are? Hinata inquired, astonished that he wasn't let down by her. Of course, every time I look into your eyes I see a powerful kunoichi just waiting to be free and show the world how powerful she really is, said Sasuke, causing Hinata to shudder. Looking down once more, Hinata remarked, I don't see that when I look into the mirror. But Sasuke caught her by the chin and forced her to meet his eyes. Hinata glowed neon red as he said, well, I do, and I bet you can too if you start believing in yourself like I do. They both turned to face Neji and said, you better let her go or else. N.Neji.Ni.San. Sasuke stood his ground and told Neji, I told you before, I don't take orders from anyone, until Neji attempted to attack him with a kunai. Neji yelled as he ran after Sasuke, I'm going to skin you alive this time, Uchiha. The hawk is hunting the cockatoo, was Mamoru's statement after he noticed that Neji had taken the bait. Naruto retorted, I seriously doubt hawks hunt cockatoos. It doesn't matter, this is your chance to talk to your fifth girlfriend, now go. For the first time in 4 years, Naruto made the decision to speak with Tenten. Since he was near Tenten, he thought it would be appropriate to say, hey Tenten-chan, now. Oh, hey, Tenten said as she noticed Naruto approaching her. He said, still not happy to see me? Well, can you blame me? You just ended our friendship out of the blue. How do you expect me to react? Tenten exclaimed. I was trying to protect you. All you did was hurt me, and besides I could have taken care of myself. I'm a strong girl, you know. I know that, but back then there were still many who were more advanced than you were back when we were still at the academy. Naruto attempted to persuade her, I was trying to protect you and your family. Protect us from who? From the villagers? Naruto remained silent as she began to leave, saying, what? Why would the people we swore to protect try to harm me and my family? No answer, huh? Neji was right, you are pathetic. He blurted, I'm the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. When Mamoru's jaw dropped at his best friend's action, Tenten turned to face him and asked, what? Naruto simply turned and fled, saying, Naruto wait. She attempted to grab him, but he was too fast, and all she could say as she watched him flee was his name, Naruto. Tenten began to cry when Mamoru looked at her. Perhaps she had feelings for Naruto and genuinely cared for him. She declared, I never want to lose you. Mamoru rushed after his best friend, leaving the brunette with tears in her eyes, demonstrating her obvious affection for Naruto. Team 7 reconvened at Gate 47 in the vicinity, inquiring, so Dobi, how did it go? Sasuke. Sasuke knew that Naruto had lied, but he didn't elaborate. Huh? Oh, it went all right. So I see Neji didn't skin you alive. Not even close. He smirked smugly. Sakura questioned, what are you guys talking about? Sasuke retorted, oh nothing, yeah, just guy stuff. Naruto grinned and continued. She rolled her eyes and said, whatever, so Naruto about earlier. The words, all right kiddies, echoed from the speakers as Enko said, take your places, we are about to begin, and one more piece of advice, just don't die. Looks like this'll have to wait, Sakura, she said, nodding. Are we all ready? She asked. Yes, HN. Yip. They all took their places and said, all right, let's get ready. Let's keep going with confidence, believe it. 3. Sakura was startled and blushed when Naruto took her hand. 2. Naruto grinned and said, I'll be by your side. 1. I know, was her sincere smile in response. Go. All of the teams leapt through the trees and ran into the forest as soon as the gate opened. Before they stopped, Team 7 had leapt through a few enormous branches from the enormous trees. Sasuke told his teammates, okay, we need to think of a game plan. With an easygoing demeanor, Naruto said, Sasuke, Teme, relax, everything will be fine. Sakura yelled, how can you relax when we're in this awful place? Believing her crush to be crazy. Naruto simply grinned. Naruto grabbed his team's attention by saying, because we have something the other teams don't. Sakura's and Sasuke's faces jumped up on the branch, me. Sasuke, growing irritated, remarked, Naruto, now is not the time to be arrogant. Naruto grinned proudly and said, I'm not getting cocky, Teme. I've been hanging out here since I was 6. Sakura and Sasuke gave him a startled look. Sasuke remarked, "You can't be serious." With a smile on his face, Naruto remarked, "It's true. I came here when the villagers were chasing me after a prank they weren't too fond of, and I actually started to like this place, so I made it my little playground." Sakura exclaimed, "Great," as she jumped with excitement that her crush would lead them out of the area. "Alright, there's a stream at the northeast side of the forest. We go there and camp. We'll have fresh water and an opportunity to ambush and take down anyone who comes by it." Naruto responded by taking charge. Sakura and Sasuke both nodded. Mamoru grinned at his best friend's brilliant suggestion. Shouting, "Now let's move!" Naruto pumped his fist in the air. The four then ran all the way to the stream on the northeastern side of the forest. Alongside Team 8, Akumaru and Kiba were searching for any other teams in the area, but they were unable to locate any. Shino told his dog, "Loving teammate, Kiba, you don't have to sniff every piece of ground in front of us." Kiba screamed at his teammate, "Shut up, Shino," as he and Akumaru continued to sniff the area but found nothing. With a moan, Kiba seized his head. "No way am I and Akumaru going to be outdone by dead last Naruto and his pet rat," Kiba yelled. "That's me and Akumaru," Shino clarified. "Don't correct me, Shino," Kiba screamed, gesturing to the bug user and pointing. As Hinata watched Kiba yell at Kiba, she stood there in silence and did nothing. She wondered how the boy with the raven hair, Sasuke-kun, was doing. "And you?" Kiba accused, pointing an accusing finger at Hinata, causing her to sigh. "You were thinking about Sasuke right now, weren't you?" Kiba said. Hinata simply remained silent while responding to Kiba. "Why are you suddenly into him? He's a prick, an asshole, he." Hinata's statement that, "he believes in me," startled her two teammates. Kiba stood there, his mouth hanging open, before he recovered from his shock. "When others expected me to quit, he wished for the exact opposite. He believes in me, while back at the written exams. You didn't believe in me at all, did you, Kiba-kun?" "Hinata, you're my friend, of course I believe in you, it's just I don't trust Sasuke. There was always something off about him back at the academy, and ever since I felt that feeling in my gut, I never wanted anything to do with him," Kiba stated to her. "I just don't want to see you get hurt, so just be careful around him," Kiba cautioned her. Hinata cast her gaze to the floor. With the others following him, Kiba and Akamaru leapt to the tree branches and exclaimed, "Let's move, we're burning daylight." "Kiba-kun, you're mistaken." Hinata believed that Sasuke was a good man and thought, "I just know that Sasuke-kun is a good person." Alongside Team 10 as he munched on some potato chips, Choji questioned, "So, you want us to find Team 7 and work together?" "That's right. We've got a better chance of surviving this place if we have them on our side," Ino replied with a grin. With his typical drab expression, Shikamaru remarked, "And by them, you mean Naruto." With a smirk still visible, Ino folded her arms and said, "He's a powerful guy, what can I say?" Shikamaru muttered, "Troublesome woman." With an angry expression on her face, Ino exclaimed, "What was that?" Shikamaru replied, "Nothing, let's just go find your boyfriend." Ino grinned once more and remarked, "He's not my boyfriend, yet." Alongside Team Guy, while Team Guy was hopping from branch to branch in search of a team that might have a scroll opposite theirs, one of the members was distracted by something else. Tenten's eyes were filled with guilt, worry, and sadness. She was furious with Naruto when he announced that they could no longer be friends because she believed he saw her as a worthless, stupid civilian girl, just like the other boys in the academy did. However, his admission caused her to rethink her unfavorable thoughts. Tenten began to sob, saying, "I am so sorry, Naruto-kun. Naruto, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, that's why you ended our friendship, to protect me and my family." Lee saw his friend begin to cry and asked, "Tenten, are you okay?" "Yeah, Lee," she said to her green-clad teammate, "I'm just remembering something personal." "Don't let your personal feeling get in the way of the task at hand, Tenten. For the next 5 days, we are shinobi, nothing more, nothing less," Neji replied. Tenten nodded in agreement, but that didn't mean she would ever stop loving Naruto. "Naruto, I'll be by your side the entire time if we cross paths again in this forest. Naruto, I no longer fear you." Alongside Team 7 at last, Team 7 arrived at the stream and perched atop a massive branch. While the others were laying traps, Mamoru watched the stream. The 3 human members met up with the small fox kid as they were wrapping up the traps. Naruto pulled out a kunai and said, "Okay, now that that's settled, I'm going to go hunting." Sakura said, "What? Naruto, we should stay together," not wanting him to leave out of concern that he would be jumped. Naruto assured Sakura that he would be alright. However, Sakura didn't appear persuaded. Sakura was forced to look into Naruto's sunglass covered eyes as he firmly put his hands on her shoulders. Naruto grinned and reassured her, saying, I promise. And you know me and my promises? Sakura gave him a hug after returning his smile. Sakura said, just come back safe, Baka. Naruto smiled and said to her, I will, Sakura. Chan. Naruto was about to leave them when he said, Mamoru, stay here and watch over them. Mamoru raised his paw in agreement while continuing to look out for any other shinobi. Sasuke called the boy with white hair, Naruto, and said, when you get back, you're going to tell us your secret. Naruto gave a sympathetic nod. Sakura questioned, secret? What secret? Naruto said, when I return, I'll let you know. A secret? What might it be? Sakura pondered later. Naruto was still looking for an animal to hunt and kill so he and his group could eat, but all he found were teams he defeated and extra scrolls, which was good, but he was hungry. Naruto heard a girl scream out of nowhere. When he came to a stop, he saw a red-haired girl cornered by a massive bear, holding a scroll. Finally, a cute damsel in distress and a giant animal to make into a meal? Kami, thank you for finally answering my prayers. Naruto was overjoyed. To the ground looking at the bear that had cornered her, the girl was terrified. The girl stumbled and fell as she attempted to run to the side. Then the enormous bear raised its claw, poised to attack the girl. The bear was about to kill the girl, so all she could do was cower in terror. Suddenly, a boy appeared on top of the bear's head and yelled, Shinra Tensei. Suddenly, an unseen force killed the bear by slamming its head to the ground. When the girl looked up, she saw a boy with spiky white hair, free whisker-like birthmarks on each cheek, sunglasses, an orange jacket with black flames on the waist and sleeves, a black shirt with a red swirl insignia, black pants with bandages around the ankles, black shinobi sandals, and a necklace with a single magatama. To be honest, I thought the guy was cool and cute. The boy with white hair grinned broadly and said, don't worry, miss, you don't have to worry about this beast anymore. The girl looked at the boy and adjusted her glasses. The boy with the white hair then leapt to the ground and crouched in front of her, grinning. The girl had fair skin, crimson eyes, and red shoulder-length hair in an odd style. It was longer and straight on the left side and short and spiky on the right. She was dressed in a black skirt, a mesh shirt, a beige short-sleeved haori, brown glasses, a kunai holster strapped around her leg, and typical shinobi sandals. The boy said, hello, my name is Naruto. The girl stared at the boy and stood silent. What's wrong, can't you talk? The girl remarked, your chakra is so mysterious. Huh? The girl, who is now Karen, introduced herself with a quick, hi, I'm Karen. Naruto said, nice name. Could you tell me your last name? Karen hesitated to do so. Naruto told her, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. Karen was relieved that she didn't need to. I'll tell you my last name, Karen said, surprised that he would voluntarily reveal her own. Uzumaki. Then, upon hearing his last name, Karen's eye grew wide. Karen hoped she heard him correctly when she asked, did you just say, Uzumaki? Naruto said, yeah, I did. Is something wrong? Then he saw Karen's eyes welling with tears. Naruto was concerned that he might have said something. Hey, are you okay? However, the girl abruptly gave him a hug. The girl's unexpected embrace startled Naruto, who flushed as a result. Karen sobbed as she said, my sister and I are finally not alone. Naruto was astounded by what she was discussing. Might she be? In an attempt to get a yes, Naruto asked her, are you an Uzumaki too? Karen gave a nod of agreement. Then Naruto began to embrace Karen with his arms while grinning. Naruto grinned as he said, I'm so glad we got to meet, Karen. Me too, Karen said, her eyes welling with tears. Happy to have met another member of their clan, the two simply sat there embracing. Afterwards, returning with the remainder of Team 7. After attacking a 3-man squad and stealing their Earth Scroll, exactly what they needed, Sasuke and Mamoru just had to wait for Naruto. Sakura hoped Naruto wasn't hurt or worse because she was growing impatient while she waited for him. Sakura got up and said, I'm going to go find him. Sasuke remarked, no Sakura, you must be patient. Yeah Sakura, I wasn't even gone that long. When Sasuke and Sakura turned around, they saw Naruto with a red-haired girl by his side and a sealing scroll that undoubtedly contained the meat. Naruto.kun. Sakura yelled the name of her crush as she leapt for him and gave him a firm embrace. She became aware of the girl with the red hair beside him as she moved away from him. Sakura thought she must be a girl who was also pursuing Naruto, so she asked, Naruto, who's this? The words, oh right. I almost forgot to introduce you guys to my family member, caused Sakura, Sasuke, and Mamoru's eyes to enlarge. Guys, this is Karen Uzumaki. Karen, these are my teammates, Sasuke, Sakura, and my partner and best friend Mamoru. Nervous of the three, Karen said, it's nice to meet you three. Observing the headband, Sasuke remarked, you're a Kusa.nin. Karen replied, yes, well then, do you know a team of Kusa.nin that has an older-looking female genin with long black hair? Feeling that Sasuke already disliked her, Karen remarked, oh, well, I don't know who they are really. Naruto proudly puffed out his chest and said, leave the poor girl alone, Sasuke. She was just attacked by a bear, which I had heroically saved her from. Sakura exclaimed, a bear? Are you okay? With concern. When Sakura first showed concern for Karen, she was taken aback. Hello, I just said that I heroically saved her, said Naruto. Naruto glared at Sasuke when he said, we heard you the first time, Dobi. Naruto jumped off the branch and landed on the ground, saying, anyway, we should eat. A larger scroll was revealed when Naruto opened his own, and a giant dead bear was revealed when he opened that larger scroll. With a broad smile, Naruto said, all right, who wants to help me cook? The expressions of the others, except Karen, were ones of surprise. Later Karen and Team 7 sat around the fire to warm themselves while they ate their bear meat. Sasuke wanted to know Naruto's secret because he could not wait any longer. Sasuke yelled, Dobi, to Naruto, but the white-haired boy continued to eat his bear flesh. In an attempt to get the attention of the white-haired teenagers, Sasuke shouted, Naruto, I think this is the best time to tell us your secret. Sakura struck the lone Uchiha upside the head and exclaimed, Sasuke, he doesn't have to tell us if he doesn't want to. Naruto turned to Karen and said, no, I want to. I know we just met and this is a lot to put onto you, but I may have just met you, but you saved me. No matter how bad it may be, it won't make me think you of anything negative. Karen called him, Naruto, to get his attention, and Naruto smiled as the boy closed his eyes after taking a deep breath and letting it out. Naruto then turned to face everyone and said, okay, I'm ready. Sasuke, Sakura, and Karen's eyes grew wide as Naruto said, do you guys know what happened 13 years ago on my birthday, October 10th? While Karen was fully aware of Naruto's secret, Sasuke and Sakura were perplexed as to why he would bring it up. Sakura replied, yeah, it was the night of the Kyuubi attack. Naruto gave a nod. Sasuke and Sakura's eyes widened in disbelief as they said, it was thought to be believed by our generation and those after it that the Yondaime had killed the Kyuubi. But that was a lie. The truth is that you can't kill a Biju, they said. On that day, the Yondaime chose an infant child to hold the creature. That infant was me. The villagers' glares, the parents warning their kids to avoid him, and Naruto being referred to as a demon brat all made sense at this point. Everything made sense. I understand if you all hate me now. When Sasuke said, shut up, everyone's eyes widened. Then Sasuke gave Naruto a glare. Naruto was stunned and dumbfounded by Sasuke's words, don't you dare ever think we'd hate you just for being given such a burden. Naruto felt soft, gentle arms suddenly envelop him in an embrace. When Naruto turned, Sakura was there. Sakura? Sakura sobbed as she said, Sasuke's right, Naruto. We could never hate you for something that you had no choice in. She felt like garbage, worthless garbage because of everything she had done in the past, hurting Naruto when he already had a terrible life. Abruptly, she felt Naruto envelop her in his arms. He was crying on her shoulder when she turned to face him. Sakura, arigato, thank you so much, I love you, said Naruto. Sakura began to shed happy tears for the boy. After that, the two parted ways, and Naruto turned to face Karen, who was staring at the floor. Karen, I know that this is a lot to take in considering we just met, but... Karen surprised Naruto by saying, it's all right. Team 7's expressions were perplexed. After all, you were the only Uzumaki in the village. Naruto said, What do you mean, Karen? Karen cast a sorrowful glance up into Naruto's eyes. Karen said, you don't know, do you? All she needed to know was Naruto's silence. Everyone was shocked to learn that, our clan. We are the only ones in existence who can contain the Kyuubi. However, Naruto was more shocked than anyone else. He had assumed that his father had picked him simply because he had faith in him, but it seems that he was picked because he was the only one who could contain Kurama. The Kyuubi, he is our clan's curse. No, he's not. With the exception of Mamoru, everyone turned to stare at Naruto in disbelief. The truth is, Kurama was forced to attack the village. He's actually a good fox when you get to know him, Naruto stated to them. Karen said, Kurama? You mean, the Kyuubi has a name? Yeah, he does. Look, I know he doesn't have a good reputation, but he was the way that he was because he was treated as horribly as me, except he's lived for over 9,000 years. If I was in his paws, I'd be the exact same way, Naruto replied. When they heard Naruto's words, everyone's eyes were sad. Everyone, with the exception of Mamoru, was shocked when Naruto declared, Kurama is my friend. The fox kid purred as Naruto scratched his best friend behind the ears and remarked, if it weren't for him, Mamoru wouldn't even be here. Kurama's my friend and I promised I won't do wrong by him, believe it, said Naruto. Everyone grinned at Naruto. Making friends with a Biju was undoubtedly a difficult task, but if he could pull it off, there were no limits to what he could accomplish. The morning after the others, including Naruto, were prepared to depart for the tower. As they made their way to the tower, Naruto was beaming broadly. Things are looking pretty good for Naruto. He had found another living relative, his friends had accepted him as Kurama's vessel, and he was going to find Anko and have fun with that woman once he arrived at the tower. Until something touched him. The others stopped when Naruto came to a stop on a tree branch. Sakura said, Naruto-kun, what's wrong? Naruto simply stood there, concentrating on something. Naruto was aware of what he was sensing as he focused. Then he made his trademark hand gesture and yelled, Kage Bushin no Jutsu. 4 clones materialized far away. Shinra Tensai was yelled simultaneously by the clones as they held out their hands to the group. An unseen force then hurled Sakura, Mamoru, Karen, and Sasuke in their direction. The 3 teenagers and Fox Kid saw the original Naruto being carried away by a wave of strong winds carrying broken tree parts as the clones caught them. They all shouted the name of the orange-coated boy, Naruto, as they watched him take off into the distance into the forest. Though their expressions were terrified, Sasuke, Sakura, and Mamoru weren't as scared as Karen. Karen's legs were becoming weak and her heart was racing. That jutsu. No, not now, Karen thought fearfully. A voice from atop a tree said, the boy sensed my attack a mile away, I'm impressed. When everyone looked up, they saw a tall woman with long black hair that reached her waist. In addition to wearing a kusahide.8 around her forehead, she wore simple gray clothing, including a black long-sleeve shirt underneath it, black pants, a black polo neck, a thick purple rope belt tied in a big knot, and blue tomo-shaped earrings. Sakura yelled, who the hell are you? Because she wanted to give this person a hard time for hurting her Naruto-kun. The woman said, you kids don't care about who I am at the moment. Sasuke glared at the woman and said, you just sent our friend flying. I think knowing who the fuck you are is pretty important. My, Sasuke-kun, such language, you are in the presence of ladies, said the woman. Sasuke narrowed his eyes at the enigmatic, eerie woman and remarked, the 2 next to me don't really give a crap right now, and you ain't a lady. Sasuke was unnerved by the woman's simple smile. The 3 teenagers felt a wave of murderous intent suddenly come straight at them. The 3 fell to their knees, the force and magnitude of it overwhelming them. The ki was beginning to overwhelm the 3, and they began to breathe heavily. The woman grinned at what was happening, but then she felt something. She was just standing on a branch when she leapt away in time to avoid being destroyed by a fireball. She saw the fireball traveling down to the 3 teenagers as she landed on another branch. It then stopped, and the fox kid, who was glaring at the woman, took its place as the fire faded. Sakura was so happy that she and the others could move that she exclaimed, Mamoru, the name of the fox kid. The woman concluded, this fox kid is no ordinary one, he must be a summoning. The fact that Mamoru could actually move and battle the enormous ki they had just experienced astounded Sasuke, Sakura, and Karen. Sasuke strolled beside Mamoru, prepared to confront this enigmatic, eerie woman. Sasuke urged the fox kid to protect Sakura and Karen, Mamoru. Mamoru gave a nod and stepped forward to shield the girls. Sasuke assumed his combat stance. The eerie woman asked, so you're finally going to fight, huh Sasuke-kun? Sasuke pulled out a kunai and said, nobody hurts my friends. Sasuke jumped at the eerie woman, ready to attack, but she simply smiled and disappeared as he was getting closer. After landing on the branch, Sasuke searched for her. Sakura called out, Mamoru, to the fox kid. When Sasuke turned around, he saw the woman in front of the girls and the fox kid lying hurt. Sasuke leapt at the woman and hurled his kunai at her, but she simply disappeared once more before it could strike. Sakura ran to Mamoru and scooped him up as Sasuke landed next to Karen. Poor Mamoru, Sakura said, feeling sad for the fox's current state. The woman smirked as she emerged onto a branch, but then she felt a chakra signature on top of her. When she looked up, she saw a ball of fire descending upon her. She barely avoided the attack that harmed the branch she was standing on when she leapt off onto another one. The branch was damaged as the fireball made contact, and Mamoru was standing in its place. The fox kid in Sakura's arms caught everyone's attention, but it vanished into a cloud of smoke. Looking at the fox kid perched on a branch, the woman thought, a cage bushin, impressive. The woman grinned wickedly, to think that a summoning that is obviously so young could actually pull off a jutsu such as that. It appears that this fight will be entertaining after all. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Sasuke blasted a massive ball of fire directly at the woman. The woman dodged the jutsu by leaping away in time. Sasuke and Mamoru both leapt to the ground. Sasuke turned to the girls and said, "We have to go now." Sakura questioned, concerned about her love, "But what about Naruto-kun? He's a strong guy, he'll be alright. Right now what matters is that we survive," Sasuke replied. They all turned to see the woman behind Sasuke and asked, "Leaving so soon?" When Sasuke attempted to stab her with a kunai, she kicked him in the stomach. Sasuke collapsed to his knees, clutching his stomach due to the agony. The woman pulled out a kunai and raised it high, preparing to strike Sasuke with it. "And here I thought you'd be a challenge, tisk, 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 you really disappoint me, Sasuke-kun." Kunai suddenly came at her, but she managed to catch it between her middle and index fingers. The woman looked at the redhead, who was glaring at her, and said, "Tisk, tisk, I thought you'd be better than this, Karen." The woman smirked, as though this was exactly what she had anticipated, and said, "Honestly, attacking someone from your own village, for shame, Karen." Sakura and Sasuke's eyes grew wide. They nearly forgot that Karen and this creep were from the same village, yet she had attempted to murder the tall woman. Karen kept glaring at the woman with such hatred. With a venomous tone, Karen declared, "The only thing shameful around her is you, Orochimaru." Her words caused Sasuke, Sakura, and Mamoru's hearts to stop. Orochimaru. They all knew exactly who Orochimaru was, so that was the first thought that crossed their minds. One of the three fabled Sannin, Orochimaru fought alongside Naruto's grandparents before betraying Konoha for some terrible deeds. They were fighting him now. Kami came to their aid. Abruptly, the eerie woman began to laugh frightfully. Well, little Karen has grown some fangs, eh?" The woman's said, shifting from a female to a male voice. "What about your sister, aren't you afraid of her life ending?" she asked. Karen said, her scowl growing more intense by the moment, "You were planning on killing us anyway, or worse." Orochimaru simply gave Karen a smile. Then Orochimaru swiftly grabbed Karen by the throat and raised her into the air. Orochimaru grinned and said, "And now you've just sealed that thought into reality." Sasuke attempted to use the situation to his advantage by stabbing Orochimaru, but Karen was used as a human shield by the Habi Sannin. The whole area was silent as blood began to seep from Karen's recent wound, and Sasuke, Sakura, and Mamoru's eyes widened as it had happened. Sakura began to cry, and Karen's eyes began to well up with tears. "Karen." Sakura cried somberly as she called the name of the redhead. When Orochimaru saw what was happening in front of him, he simply grinned. Suddenly, both of his legs were severed, causing him to let go of Karen, who Sakura had caught, and fall to the ground. A voice said, "Hiden. Burrito Teru. Secret. Blade Tail." Everyone turned to see a gray fox with a bandana wrapped around its head. It had a frightening face with sharp teeth, yellow eyes with green irises, and a scar on his left eye. His tail resembled a blade. Who in the world is that? Everyone was thinking this, with the exception of Mamoru, who knew exactly who this was. Mamoru yelled the fox's name, Jax, with delight and relief that the gray fox had arrived. When Jax's tail began to resemble a tail once more, he said, "Sup, kid." Orochimaru began to melt and said, "Damn you." Everyone turned to watch Orochimaru melt into a puddle and turn brown. Jax began walking toward the others and remarked, "So, that bastard was a Doden Cage Bushin." Sakura was holding Karen when Sasuke approached her. "This is our chance to get away. Put Karen on my back." Sasuke replied. Sakura nodded and piggybacked Karen on Sasuke's back. After that, Sakura and Sasuke began to leap through the trees, followed by Mamoru and Jax. Karen was bleeding on Sasuke's back. Mamoru turned to face Jax, his face showing caution. The little fox kid was not pleased when Jax nodded to Mamoru because they were being followed. Previously, as he flew with the fierce winds, Naruto prevented his friends from being attacked. Naruto finally had enough of flying and threw out his arms, shouting, Shinra Tensei. A massive force encircled him and then grew, destroying some of the nearby giant trees and driving out the winds. Naruto began to fall as the invisible force field subsided. Unlike a moment ago, nothing had happened when Naruto aimed his hands down and yelled, Shinra Tensei. Once more. Oh shit. I forgot that it takes a while to do that jutsu again. Naruto yelled. After crossing his fingers and saying, time for plan B, a clone materialized beside Naruto, seized his creator's arm, threw him in the direction of a branch, and then dispelled him. After landing on the branch, Naruto began to breathe heavily. Damn it. With a steely gaze, Naruto stopped panting and thought, we got separated. Not a good thing. That jutsu was the futon. Daitapa, wind release. Great breakthrough. A C-rank jutsu that not many genin, particularly those of Suna, are familiar with. Then Naruto noticed a shadow looming over him, and when he looked up, he saw a giant snake with its mouth unhinged lunging at him. Someone in these exams isn't a genin. Naruto vanished as soon as the snake struck and then reappeared a distance away using his Kasai Shushin, fire teleportation. Now that he knew who was responsible for the strong wind just you from earlier, Naruto glared at the snake. Naruto glared into space, clenching and then unclenching his hand. As he continued to stare into space, Naruto thought, I was hoping one day that I would fight him, but I was rather hoping that I'd encounter him when I got older and more experienced. The snake then lunged at Naruto once more, but this time Naruto was able to dodge its attack by using his Kasai Shushin. After biting his thumb until it bled, Naruto performed a series of hand signals before slamming his hand against the surface of the branch he was standing on. Smoke rose from the earth, and as it dissipated, Jax took its place. Jax casually said, oh, hey Gaki, what's up? At that moment, Jax noticed that Naruto was wearing a deadly serious expression. Whatcha need? Inquired Jax. Naruto said, you remember Mamoru's scent? The kid smells like ramen, noseblood, and women's perfume. It's not hard to miss, all thanks to you, Jax replied. Get his scent, follow it, and protect him along with the others until I get there. Instructed Naruto. Jax gave a nod and disappeared. Then Naruto began to gaze into space. I'm depending on you, Jax, Mamoru, Sakura, Karen, and Sasuke to survive. With a steely gaze, Naruto thought, I'll be there soon, I promise. The previous snake discovered Naruto once more, lunged at him, and then ingested him. As Naruto began to move down his throat, the snake hissed. However, it first felt a lump in its throat before experiencing a tremendous pressure buildup. The snake's throat grew wider as the pressure increased, and then its head was blown from its neck and launched into the air. Smirking at the head of the beheaded snake, Naruto leapt out of its open neck hole. Naruto never took his grin off his face as he asked, didn't your mother ever teach you to chew your food? Then, in order to avoid another giant snake's lunging attack, Naruto leapt high into the air. Naruto landed on top of a massive tree limb. He looked up and said, I should have known. Naruto glared at 3 enormous snakes that returned the look, saying, there's more of you. Bring it. In the medical facility, Tsunade was enjoying a bottle of sake in her private office. Her sensei Hiruzen had appointed her as the hospital's head medic because she was the best medic.nin in Konoha, if not the entire world. After a long day of surgery, the more serious kind that could mean the difference between life and death, Tsunade felt she deserved a reward for her efforts. She poured her drink into a glass cup and reached for it when the cup's glass broke abruptly. Tsunade blinked several times. This type of behavior is typically referred to as an omen. She had a gut feeling that something negative was going to happen. Just to be sure, Tsunade thought as she pulled out a coin and began scratching the lottery ticket from her drawer. The worst thing that could have ever happened had just happened, and Tsunade thought, I knew it. It was Tsunade's victory. Without Naruto, with Team 7 while Sasuke and the foxes were watching for anyone, especially Orochimaru, Sakura was tending to Karen's wound. Sakura noticed Sasuke glancing at the redhead while she was tending to Karen's wound. Without daring to meet Sasuke's eyes, Karen told him, if you want to say something then go ahead. What was with that conversation you had with Orochimaru? Sasuke asked, glaring at Karen. Karen briefly closed her eyes before turning to face Sakura and Sasuke. Karen looked at the ground and said, Orochimaru. He pretty much owns me. Sakura's eyes grew wide, and Sasuke arched an eyebrow. Sasuke questioned, what do you mean he owns you? Karen paused for a moment as she recalled all the terrible things the snake Sanin had done to her and her sister. You see, I have a sister, and we both came from a small village that has been destroyed by an enemy group. I have the ability to sense nearby chakra, which was the reason we were spared from the attack, but when we escaped, we ended up in the clutches of Orochimaru. Orochimaru took us in because of our clan status, but of course, knowing his reputation, he didn't treat us well. He used me as a living science experiment, and he gave my sister a mark known as the curse mark. One day my sister and I tried to escape, but we were stopped and punished with whipping and cutting. Orochimaru had threatened to take one of us away from the other if we ever went against him again. He sent me to Kusa in order to keep an eye on me with some spies he had in the village. He forced my sister to become one of his bodyguards, and if she disobeyed him, he'd kill me. So in order to keep me safe, Chan had to work for him, but now because of me, she'll die. Karen said. Mamoru was gritting his teeth in rage at what the snake Sanin had done to Naruto's family members. Sakura covered her mouth and wept for the girl. Sasuke's eyes widened at the realization of how terrible Orochimaru was, and Jax appeared stoic on the outside but was boiling inside and ready to rip the snake. Teme a new one. Karen apologized, causing everyone to stare at her bewildered. I'm so sorry. If I had just told you, you guys and Naruto wouldn't have to have dealt with all this. I'm so sorry. I know you can never forgive me, and I understand. I just want you to know I'm sorry. Karen wept. Karen was suddenly embraced by a pair of arms that encircled her body. When Karen opened her face, Sakura was embracing her. Sakura. Sakura said, don't ever think like that. Sakura was sobbing for the young redhead, saying, Naruto would never want you to think like this, and neither do I. Sakura said, I forgive you. The Pinkette's words and offer of forgiveness caused Karen's eyes to widen in surprise. Sasuke said, I forgive you too. Jax nodded with a genuine grin, and Mamoru yipped in agreement. Tears were streaming down Karen's eyes, which had widened even more. Why? Why are you all forgiving me so easily? Karen questioned, perplexed as to why. Sasuke stated bluntly, you saved my life from that psycho earlier, you've proven you could be trusted. Mamoru yipped in agreement once more. Sakura withdrew from Karen and grinned at her. Karen, you can live in Konoha with us and Naruto. I know for a fact he would love to have you here with him, Sakura replied. But, my sister. As Sakura put it, we'll find her and save her from that snake. Sakura pumped her fist in the air and yelled, and if that hubby Teme gets in our way, we'll kick his ass to high hell, believe it. Naruto was rubbing off on her, as evidenced by the sweat drop expressions on the faces of Sasuke, Mamoru, and Jax. The pink-haired girl's words left Karen dumbfounded. They had only recently met and knew nothing about one another, yet they still wanted to support her and her sister. Karen was perplexed when Sakura held out her hand. Sakura grinned and said, I don't know how much this'll mean to you, but I want to be your friend Karen. Will you accept? Karen had stopped talking as she glanced at Sakura and then at her hand. There were a few quiet moments before Karen reluctantly reached for and took the Pinkette's hand. Karen was grinning since really, and her eyes were welling with tears of happiness. With a smile on her face, Karen replied, yes. Sakura grinned and gave the redhead another hug. The foxes and Sasuke both had smiles, or, in Jax's case, a smirk, on their faces as they observed the two. An old voice said, Kukakuku, now isn't this sweet? With the exception of Jax, everyone's hearts stopped upon hearing that terrifying voice. As they all turned to face the source of the voice, they saw Orochimaru standing on a huge tree branch, grinning eerily. Orochimaru laughed and remarked, Karen, you finally made some friends. If only Tayuya were here to see this. Jax stood in the way of Mamoru's approach as he snarled at Orochimaru. Jax said, don't do something stupid, kid. After glaring at the older fox, Mamoru turned to face Orochimaru, who merely grinned at the fox kid. Mamoru grunted and closed his eyes. Sakura screamed, get the hell away from us, you monster. The young Pinkette simply made Orochimaru laugh. Orochimaru smirked and remarked, you and I both know that it's far too late for that. Sasuke demanded answers, asking, what do you want? Concerned for the Uchiha, Karen said, he's here for you. With the exception of Jax, who continued to gaze at the still smirking Orochimaru, the other's eyes widened. With mock hurt, Orochimaru remarked, I wanted to say that. Oh well. A snake's head slithered out of Orochimaru's open mouth. A sword emerged as the snake inside Orochimaru's mouth unhinged. The snake in Orochimaru's mouth retreated back inside Orochimaru's throat and below as the genin and Mamoru watched in horror as Orochimaru grabbed the handle and pulled it out of the snake's mouth. When Orochimaru saw the horrified expressions on the faces of the fox kid and genin, he simply grinned. Orochimaru grinned and said, get ready, Sasuke-kun. After I kill you, your friends will be next. Sakura shouted, "You won't stand a chance when Naruto-kun gets here." The pinkette felt uncomfortable as Orochimaru simply laughed at what she had said. "I'm afraid not, Lil One. I had already killed him before finding the lot of you. The boy really wished to see you again, my dear, but apparently that will never happen," Orochimaru replied. Karen yelled, "Don't listen to him, he's just trying to throw you guys off." Abruptly, a snake emerged from Orochimaru's sleeve, reaching all the way to Karen, encircling the redhead's neck, and then retracting all the way back to its summoner.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.